Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku had Kaachan Quirk Part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see Part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story Prince_Firefly from AO3. So let's start the video. 𝐬𝐻𝐬 massaged his left temple as he was handed another coffee. He already knew this was going to be a long night. The other pro heroes called him in as backup but revealed they hadn't needed him. Then they called him in case the victim's quirk went out of control, but that was retconned too. Now he was being called down to the police station. Eraserhead, it's good to see you. 𝐬𝐻𝐬 was greeted with a small wave. Detective Tsukachi stood just in front of one of the interrogation rooms. Detective, why am I being called down here after 2 counts of being dismissed? Is my help needed or not? Tsukachi nervously rubbed at his neck. He led 𝐬𝐻𝐬 to the one-sided glass so he could see who was inside. A small figure hunched over themselves, clutching the edge of an old flannel shirt. The figure rocked back and forth and appeared to mutter to himself. You have students of your own, we were hoping you could get him to respond. 𝐬𝐻𝐬 glanced at Tsukachi for a second before turning his attention to the figure. He's a child. This is a child. He's very small, so he has to be around 11 or 12. Maybe he's just gone through puberty. Handling 20 rambunctious teenagers is different from handling a traumatized prepubescent child. Tsukachi sighed beside him. No one has been able to get him to talk to us. As soon as we ask him a question, he figuratively zips his mouth shut and looks at the door like he might bolt. Why did Tsukachi specify figuratively? Yamada and Kayama have worked with kids for much longer and are better with people. Why not call them? His quirk, it's complicated. 𝐬𝐻𝐬 looks over his shoulder at the detective, morbid curiosity rising in him. Was this kid's quirk dangerous, is that why? Explain, now. Well, oh. Look, he's doing it now. 𝐬𝐻𝐬 stared at the kid, not activating his quirk. He created gold-colored strands that weaved together to form a pillowcase. He used the pillowcase to wrap up his arm. 𝐬𝐻𝐬 activated his quirk and watched as the design fell apart and faded out. Inside, the kid started panicking. Shit, go inside and calm him down. 𝐬𝐻𝐬 nodded as he rushed to open the door. The kid stopped visibly panicking, but 𝐬𝐻𝐬 could still see the fear in his eyes. When it appeared 𝐬𝐻𝐬 wasn't doing anything to hurt him, he relaxed. A dull film overtook his eyes. The kid appeared several years older than he could be with the look in his eyes, but simultaneously appeared younger with the way he held himself like a toddler. His hair was ratty and covered in dirt and blood, with his bangs drooping in his eyes. The flannel shirt he held onto appeared to fit a younger child. 𝐬𝐻𝐬 crouched down in front of the kid. There were scars around his mouth. It looked like someone had tried to dig their fingernails into him. Bruises on his neck caught his attention next. There were 2 marks on his right side and 1 on the left, like someone had tried to choke him with only 3 fingers. The perpetrator appeared to be left-handed. Hi, I'm Eraserhead, I'm a pro hero. 𝐬𝐻𝐬 offered his hand. The kid stared at his hand and then looked up at his neck. 𝐬𝐻𝐬 wears his capture weapon pretty regularly, so it's one of his only defining identifications for viewers. The kid opened his mouth and blew air out of his mouth. He turned to cough before attempting to speak again. Hello. According to Tsukachi, this is the most he's spoken. Just because the detective was correct doesn't mean he won't deny his ability with kids. 𝐬𝐻𝐬 thought he was terrible with children, but apparently, he was doing a good job with this one. And all of his students. Can you tell me what happened? You have a lot of injuries. The kid flinched away as 𝐬𝐻𝐬 raised his hand to point. 𝐬𝐻𝐬 drew back his hand and waited. The kid shook his head and bit down on his lip. 𝐬𝐻𝐬 ran his eyes over the kid to search for more injuries. The arm he previously wrapped up was bent and shoved against his chest. Like he's protecting it. Likely broken, although an open fracture hasn't occurred, so that's good at least. Both legs contain minor scrapes and bruises along with a still bleeding ankle. 𝐬𝐻𝐻 could only assume he refused medical treatment if his aversion to even close gestures meant anything. Even so, he still needed to be checked for blood poisons and infections. "Alright, kid, can you tell me your name? How old are you?" The kid rapidly blinked and glanced around the room. 𝐬𝐻𝐻 looked at what he was staring at. The camera is what he's worried about. "Don't worry, just tell me what you're comfortable with." The kid nodded and shifted so his arm was further out of view. What's the date?" 𝐬𝐻𝐻 hadn't realized there might be some trouble with that. This kid has been missing for longer than a month at least. "It's August, the second semester starts in a week." "Do you know what year it is?" The kid nodded before speaking again. "I've been counting the New Year's celebrations." What 𝐬𝐻𝐻 could gather was this kid at least had a TV where he was or he looked out the window. Either way, he could access the outside world in some way. "I'm 15. "Oh." 𝐬𝐻𝐻 was completely wrong about his age, but that brought up several red flags. Why was someone his age so thin? How had a missing 15-year-old not been acknowledged by school friends at least? Why did this kid not try to escape? 𝐬𝐻𝐻 could answer his own questions. He was this thin because he was obviously malnourished by whoever had him. Maybe the kid didn't have friends before or he had been missing for a few too many years. Maybe he lived with abusive parents and that's why he wasn't reported as missing and why he never tried to escape. "Can you tell me about your family?" The kid's eyes widened and a sparkle shone in them. That was the first time this entire conversation. "My mom, she's amazing. She always made my favorite dinner and she always supported me no matter what. I miss her. I haven't seen her in so long. My dad. I don't know. I've never met him." The kid reverted to a painfully dull face, reminiscent of a doll or puppet. 𝐬𝐻𝐻 watched as the kid subtly shifted into a defensive position. Giving away information or appearing happy got him hurt? It's more likely showing emotion. This is how he's been coping. "Alright, I need to know who your parents are. Can you tell me that?" The kid's lip trembled as his eyes darted to the camera and the door. 𝐬𝐻𝐻 passively raised his hands and waited. The kid noticed and nodded slowly. He took a shaky breath before pondering his words. "My mom's name is 𝐀𝐦. My dad's is 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐸. I can't tell you anymore." Why not? It was out 𝐬𝐻𝐻's mouth before he could truly think of the next horror that might come from this kid. "I'm not. I can't. Sensei won't." "No." 𝐬𝐻𝐻 thought through all of his attempts at a sentence. Whoever Sensei is, he won't allow this child to communicate. 𝐬𝐻𝐻 could probably bet all of his life earnings Sensei had this child for however many years and he's the one who abused him. The kid fiddled with the flannel shirt and his expression looked almost longing as he stared at it. This might help them out a bit more. "Could you tell me who that shirt belongs to?" The kid looked up and had an almost bright glow in his eyes again but stifled it just as quickly. "It belonged to my friend, Kaachan." "Kaachan?" 𝐬𝐻𝐻 asked. "𝐵𝘃𝐻𝐻 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐿. We hung out all of the time but I haven't seen him since. He's around my age." 𝐬𝐻𝐻 didn't like that long pause but he could only assume since I was kidnapped. Still, an entire name from his past was more than enough to find him. And maybe they could find his family while they were at it. 𝐬𝐻𝐻 stood up and walked slowly toward the door. The kid watched him out of the corner of his eye. 𝐬𝐻𝐻 waved before exiting. Tsukachi came out of the observation side of the room. He looked pleased. "Find 𝐵𝘃𝐻𝐻 𝐸𝐻𝐻𝐿 and maybe see if his parents know an 𝐸𝐻𝐻 or a 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐸. Already planned on it eraser, thanks for your help. Of course, I'm assuming you want me here to explain the situation." Tsukachi sent off an officer to look for their one named person. "Actually, I think it's best if you visit the residence yourself. They might want to ask you questions seeing as you're the only person so far to hold a conversation with him." 𝐬𝐻𝐻 sighed heavily. This was turning out to be an even longer night than he thought. Katsuki glared at the weird hobo in front of him. First, this guy asks if he can come in because there are a few people he needs help identifying. Then he asks if Katsuki can be in the conversation, he apparently important to it. Third, he introduced himself as pro hero, Eraserhead, like that makes any sense. And now he's sitting in front of them, on their couch, with a picture of Auntie and her ex-husband. So these two are 𝐀𝐦 and 𝐍𝐸? Yes, sir. Katsuki glared at his dad. He didn't have to show respect to this hobo even if he really was who he said he was. May I ask what happened to them? No, you may fucking not. Katsuki. Watch your language, young man, his mother chided. Whatever. I'm sorry about him. Since he lost his friend, he hasn't been quite himself. His temper just gets shorter and shorter. Oh, shut it. I'm always myself. You don't know anything. Damn it, Katsuki, don't yell in front of a guest, especially not at me. Can you two please calm down? The hobo had the nerve to sigh. How dare he even think he can come into the house and think they'll be okay with him asking personal questions. I apologize for our son's behavior. 𝐀𝐦 was a dear friend of ours, so, of course, our boys were best friends. After well, 𝐀𝐦 had always been a bit fragile and the grief killed her. I'm sorry to hear that. You're just saying that out of respect, you don't actually care. Katsuki. You can't just say whatever rude thing you want. We taught you manners. Katsuki glared at his mom and dad before turning to the stranger. You want to know about Hisashi and Auntie? He fucking left when his son turned out to be a lesser being. When that son died, Auntie kicked the bucket. Are you fucking happy? Katsuki. You don't know that for sure. He's just missing. He may have been reported as missing almost 6 years ago, but there's no way he ain't dead now, so stop denying it. Now hobo, why the fuck did you want me here? Katsuki glared down at him. Hobo didn't even respond to him being called a hobo, but his mom did tell him to apologize. Hobo stood up to match Katsuki's height while he stood on their coffee table. We might have found your friend, we need you to ID him for us. 𝐬𝐸 led the two of them into the station. Mr. 𝗵𝘃𝐸 stayed home as he had to go to work very soon, but he would like to see him if it was actually him. Mrs. 𝗵𝘃𝐸 kept shooting silent glares at her son while he cursed up a storm. He didn't want to do any of the legal paperwork, understandably so. After filling out a guest form and receiving a guest badge, Katsuki stood at a relaxed version of attention while he waited. 𝐬𝐸 led him to the observation room Tsukachi had occupied 2 nights prior. Before sending any more people in, they had to make sure they were familiar. According to Mrs. 𝗵𝘃𝐸, their friend's name was Midoriya 𝐀𝐦, and her son's name is Midoriya Izuku. All he needs Katsuki to do is ID him as Izuku and things will be solved. They can figure out if he has any living relatives and handle things from there. In the room, Izuku, or so they hope, is sitting with his arm in a cast and several bandages covering his face, neck, legs, and his not broken arm. He looks just as lifeless as he did when they first met. He didn't appear to be doing anything crazy, although he did make a small plush made of black fabric. A second glance told him that was a plush of him, Eraserhead. What's he doing? As far as I know, he's just messing around with his quirk to comfort himself. He's only spoken to me since he's arrived and he refuses to let anyone touch him. They had to sedate him to give him proper medical attention and now he refuses to even mumble when he's alone. 𝐬𝐸 sat silent as Katsuki takes in all of the kid in front of them. Maybe a closer look will help more, but his physical features are still very distinct through the glass. Dull green eyes, dark green hair, and pale freckles in a diamond pattern. Although, the freckles on his right cheek are covered by bandages. So, do you recognize him? Yes and no. 𝐬𝐸 turned his attention to the child next to him. Katsuki had a pensive look on his face. Well, it has been almost 6 years according to you, he's bound to look older. Katsuki waves the air in front of him while shaking his head. That's not what I meant. There are 3 reasons why that isn't the Deku I knew. So they have nicknames for each other. Good to know. Number 1, Deku always fills in the silence unless I'm talking. Number 2, Deku always has those dumb red shoes on, he doesn't right now, those are black. Number 3, Deku doesn't have a quirk. He's never had a quirk. I had to listen to him cry for hours about being diagnosed quirkless and watch him try for hours to use a quirk that wasn't there. So yes, that looks exactly like him, but no, that ain't him. 𝐬𝐡𝐬 stared numbly as Katsuki stomped off. He wondered briefly if he should try to bring him back so they could try to talk to each other. Mrs. Bakugo entered next and she eyed him as Midoriya Izuku immediately. Ah! Tsukachi, good to hear from you. What's up? Yagi, I'd like to say this is about something pleasure-related or even just a catch-up, but there's something important we need to discuss at the station. Toshinori sighed at the declaration. It could never be fun for them, only business. Well, I guess that was a hero's job. Still, though, he had a few more hours of hero work he could do. Can it wait? I still have a few more hours of hero work to get in and I have all of this paperwork. It's about the recent victim we found and all for one. Shit. I'm on my way. Toshinori hung up his phone and ran as fast as he could to the Muzidafu police station. It can't be the worst-case scenario. I mean, the worst case would be all for one is still alive and this child they found is hosting his spirit. Toshinori shuddered at that thought and pushed forward. He slowed to a light jog as he neared the street and calmed to a walk as he entered the station. It was gearing towards sunset now. All Might is here. Why did you call him in? A gruff-looking man in all black stood beside Tsukachi. Had he not already met all of UA's staff, he'd have no idea who this is. But he met Aizawa almost as soon as he entered the building. Aizawa, a pleasure to see you again. Tsukachi, are we discussing the case yet? Yeah, you two walk with me. Tsukachi turned around and Toshinori followed as he and Aizawa walked to the interrogation rooms. Toshinori questioned why they were there. The victim is in that room. You're keeping him locked up like a criminal. Why? It took a sedative to move him to put all of those bandages on him. As soon as he woke up, he bolted back into the room. He doesn't like most people and only started responding to Eraserhead after he introduced himself as a hero. Toshinori pondered for a bit. This kid only felt safe around heroes. That was understandable. Heroes are meant to save everyone. But police officers are friends too. Perhaps he's worried about dirty cops? Or maybe it's because Eraserhead has met him before. How does this child relate to, Aizawa gave him a weird look. Considering Eraserhead will be a part of this case because Midoriya only responds to him and only trusts him, we'll be explaining things about all for one. Toshinori released a sigh of relief. He didn't like lying and keeping secrets was exhausting, but he did it out of protection. Since Eraserhead was one of the most trustworthy heroes he's met, Toshinori felt he could trust him. So, wait, you're telling me a 200-year-old supervillain who's been aiming to kill you, who you've thought dead up to this point, may be targeting this kid? What the hell gave you that idea? Are you sure he's dead or alive? 𝐬𝐡𝐬 paced around the small room as he waited for one of them to answer. Well, his body was never recovered, but I did smash his face multiple times. He shouldn't have survived that. Great, so this evil supervillain is still probably out there. Not only that, but he's targeting a child and has already traumatized this child. Aizawa, that child has a quirk from All for One. You said it yourself, his file has him listed as quirkless, his friend said he was diagnosed quirkless, and he used a quirk that you erased by looking at him. He's likely working for the villain. I refuse to believe that. That child would try to kill me if he worked for a supervillain like that. He didn't even tell me to go away. He's not a villain, he's not working for one, and he'll be damned if you try to suggest anything of the sort. 𝐬𝐡𝐬 knew his anger was a bit irrational, but the last 3 days have been absolute hell. He'd spent so much time with this child trying to coax him to talk, that he had grown an attachment. Aizawa, he refuses to share anything about where he's been these last few years, about what he might have done. He could have committed some kind of villainy or had a plan to take a hero down already. We have to review every option. 𝐲𝗧𝗪 turned on his quirk as he glared at All Might. He puffed out smoke and shrunk to his true form. All Might coughed up blood at the sudden transformation. Midoriya Izuku is not a villain and is not working for one either. He is a traumatized victim and he needs our support. Now, if you have nothing helpful to add, please leave. All Might swallowed air as 𝐲𝗧𝗪 continued to glare. Tsukachi led All Might away before 𝐲𝗧𝗪 could do something he would likely regret. 𝐲𝗧𝗪 sighed as he looked into the room. Izuku looked content to play with his Eraserhead plush and another plush wrapped in the old flannel and just forget about the argument on the other side of the glass. That must be a Kaachan plush. 𝐲𝗧𝗪 smiled at the sight. If only things were easier for this kid. A smile wouldn't be a miracle and physical touch wouldn't be impossible. Izuku looked up as the door opened. His plushies fizzed out on instinct. He cuddled his arm into his stomach and angled his body away to hide most of his injuries. Don't show any weakness and they'll let you be. Don't make any noise and they'll let you be. Don't make eye contact and they'll let you be. Don't smile or laugh and they'll leave you alone. It's your fault if they hurt you. It's your fault if you get emotional. Don't show any reaction. Play dead. If they make a joke, play dead. It's easier if you just play dead. They can't hurt you if you give them no reason to. How are you feeling? Eraserhead's kind voice broke through his dark reminders. Izuku didn't normally get asked how he felt. Sensei didn't ask unless he wanted to test him. The first few times he didn't get it, but now he knew. Don't answer honestly or else suffer the consequences. Tomura asked him sometimes too, but if he answered he'd tease him. Or hurt him. His throat still hurt from when he expressed his anger and yelled at Tomura. That was very recent. Eraserhead didn't hurt him when he spoke. He encouraged him. When he got happy about a topic, Eraserhead relaxed. When Eraserhead asked to see how he made the Eraserhead doll, he sounded genuine. Tomura and Sensei only ever sounded teasing and mocking. Only ever belittling. I don't know. I guess. Nervous? Not around you, just in general. Izuku panicked slightly. He didn't want to offend Eraserhead after he has been so nice since he arrived. If he offends people they have a reason to hurt him. It's his own fault if he gets hurt after all. He didn't want to get hurt. Could be anxiety. That's very common in situations similar to yours. Izuku didn't know what situations like his were, but from what he's heard, not good. He listened through the door with a sound amplifier he made. He's glad he has so much thread on hand, and heard them talking. They knew about All for One, that's Sensei's name. All Might was worried about him being a villain or working for one. He could assure him he had no intention of becoming one, but he figured he'd let them figure that out on their own. Eraserhead defended him. Izuku never had that. Detective Tsukachi remained mostly neutral. If he is friends with All Might, as he seems, Izuku can give him a chance. But if he starts talking to him, will Eraserhead leave and never come back as his help is no longer necessary? Can you tell me some more about Kaachan? Anything you remember, of course. Izuku nodded excitedly. Kaachan was one of his favorite people. Man, he missed him. Kaachan had always been there with him. Kaachan is the strongest person ever. He always won no matter who he fought. And Kaachan never gave up ever. Even when he challenged Izuku to switch shoes with him for a week and it pinched his toes horribly. Kaachan loves spicy food and almost always has a black or a flannel shirt on. His main motivation is being the best and his second is being the richest. He's mean to everyone and he secretly loves his parents, but he would never say that to them. He wants to be just like All Might. Izuku realized he just muttered all of that. Not only that, it was one of his mumble obsession rants that Kaachan found annoying. Izuku created a bag out of the threads and slipped it onto his head. It ended up resembling the paper grocery bags his mom used to use for shopping. Can I see Mom or Kaachan sometime? I really miss them. I know, kid. There's something we have to explain about your mom though. A knock stops him. Hold that thought. Eraserhead walks to the door and opens it partially. There's a quiet growl that sounds like an older, angrier Kaachan. Izuku shoves down the bubbling hope. Hope leads to disappointment and heartbreak. Eraserhead comes back over after leaving the door slightly ajar. Izuku nervously bites his lip to ease just a little of it. He scratches at the edge of his cast as he stares at it. He's too nervous to hear what Eraserhead is saying. Oh, God. If Eraserhead thinks it's rude if I don't respond, then he'll be mad at me. What if he hurts me because I ignored him? What if he never talks to me again? Izuku's thoughts continued to spiral as Eraserhead left the room. Eraserhead didn't come back, and that further cemented Izuku's thoughts. Externally he appeared as calm as possible, but internally he was screaming. Whenever he got thoughts like this, his chest hurt and his head ached, and he felt the tears coming. A familiar head of blonde spiky hair entered the room. The figure was too tall to be either of them, but it had been 6 years. This could only be Kaachan though. He was wearing sweatpants and a black skull t-shirt, so it really had to be him. Unless Sensei was tricking him. The blonde slumped against the wall just watching him. He had on a pensive face. They both just stared at each other silently. Izuku wondered if he was offending Kaachan by not saying anything. He had been the one to request Kaachan, he just didn't think he would see him so soon. Unless Kaachan was in trouble for some reason. Kaachan. Are you okay? The blonde slowly lowered himself to Izuku's height. He only needed to kneel to reach him, considering he has been sitting on the stool they offered him. His head tilted to the side. Yeah, that's the Deku I know. Izuku crinkled his brows together. Did Kaachan not think he was him? Was someone hurting him too? Was he in danger? Was Sensei or someone else targeting Kaachan? What? Shut up, nerd. Your mutterings are giving me a migraine. 2 minutes with me and you're already more yourself than you have been in the past week. Izuku sucked in a breath. They haven't seen each other in 6 years. He missed out on 6 years of birthdays with his mom, 6 years of hero games with Kaachan, and 6 years of pro hero debuts. Sorry. Why are you here? Because they needed me to ID you, dumbass. You didn't give them more relevant info than your parents' first names and my name. Apparently, when asked, you wouldn't stop talking about Auntie and me, but as soon as they ask about you, you shut down. What the fuck happened? Kaachan is safe, which is good. Izuku hated to think what Sensei might do if he met Kaachan. Kaachan was very emotional and always resorted to rage first. Tomura was worse when you made him angry though. He had to be reminded he couldn't kill someone, and sometimes he still did it. It was only because he liked messing with Izuku that Izuku was still alive. As much as Izuku wanted to tell Kaachan everything, he couldn't. Someone could overhear, and if Sensei found out, he would be angry. An angry Sensei lashed out at not only Izuku but the things he cared about. As long as Izuku was with him, he only had maybe a few toys or a notebook he cared about. Here he had too many people he cared about. I can't say. Be before you say anything. I want to tell you, but Izuku's thoughts wandered to Sensei. If you run to anyone and try to tell them, they won't believe you. And once you come running back, I'll find out. And I'll take away every little thing you've ever loved. That way I will be the only one you have. You don't have much anyway, so it's best to stay with me. Oh, and Izuku, I always know. Be careful. Tears built up at the corners of his eyes. Izuku tried his best to cover his face with one hand. He didn't succeed, but Kaachan covered the rest of his face for him. Kaachan didn't like to be seen crying, so he understood. It hurts. It hurts so much. I just don't want you guys to feel it too. Kaachan gently, too gentle a movement for such a brash boy, cupped Izuku's head in his hand and laid him against his shoulder. He laced his other arm around his torso and rested it protectively across Izuku's back. It's fine. Whoever he is, he won't hurt you or me or mom or the hobo hero you like so much. It's gonna be fine and I'll be damned if anyone ever tries to hurt you again. Kaachan's voice was low and soothing but filled with anger. Izuku normally didn't like anger. Anger meant he would get hurt. He didn't like to be hurt. But from Kaachan, it sounded like his anger wasn't to him but for him. Kaachan's anger was protective. Kaachan's anger meant loyalty and love. That made Izuku cry harder than he had in years. Katsuki glared at Kurohobo through the glass. God damn him. He offered Katsuki the chance to be inside the room to comfort Deku, but fuck that. Deku's tears were strong enough to set off his sweat, especially if the Midoriya tears came out. As much as he wanted to be there for him, he couldn't handle the whole Midoriya immediate grief stage. He would fight everyone here to stay overnight, simply to make sure Deku had company, someone to talk to, someone to hold on to, and someone to dry his tears for him. But Katsuki couldn't handle his face when realization dawned on him. So far, Eraserhead has decided to address the situation slowly. He hasn't even gotten to the whole dead because she lost her son thing. Deku would blame himself when he finds out about his going missing being what caused it. It's not his fault, but he would blame himself. Deku's face froze in the middle of Eraserhead's speech. Katsuki ripped his face from the window. He couldn't stand to see that. He was strong, but fuck that. He didn't need to see him break when he knew how heartbroken he would be. Auntie had stayed with them while the police and heroes searched for Deku. When they came over and told her there was no way they could find her son, she froze just like that. Her face broke and she cried and screamed and eventually ended up reclusive. She hid away from the light and mom. Leaving her alone might have been respecting her boundaries, but they should have stayed with her. Maybe she would still be here. If her death was anyone's fault, it was his and his parents'. Katsuki stopped outside the door. When could they find somewhere else for him to stay? Deku never liked being alone. After whatever he went through, there's no way he wanted to be locked up in there forever. The door opened and Deku rushed outside, almost knocking Katsuki over. Katsuki balanced himself and kept Deku upright and in front of him. Hey, it's okay. Why are you running? Deku looked at him with those sad puppy dog eyes he used to get more candy from Auntie during sleepovers. The candy was normally for Katsuki, but he still used them. Make him stop. Tell him it isn't true. Tell him, Kaachan. Shit. What was Katsuki supposed to say? He could play dumb, but that would hurt him more. Kid, I know it's difficult to hear, but your mother is gone. Katsuki winced as Deku tightened his grip on his shirt. No. It isn't. Mom is at home. She's wondering when I'm coming back. Mom misses me and you just can't find her new residence. That's all. Right, Kaachan? That's all. Kaachan. Katsuki gulped down the last of whatever fear might be holding him back. He couldn't let Deku delude himself. Deku, Auntie, she was just so broken, her heart couldn't take it. After you disappeared. I'm sorry. We should have done more to help her, I know. If you want someone to blame, blame me and Mom. We didn't do enough to help her stay alive. Katsuki waited for whatever response would come. Maybe a punch. Maybe a "we're not friends anymore," he would deserve that. Maybe a crying spell. Instead, Deku skipped past all of the anger and tears and whatever bargaining meant and shut down. Katsuki slowly wrapped his arms around Deku, but he showed no response. He didn't respond when Katsuki let go. He let himself be led back to the interrogation room. He didn't fight when someone came in to change his bandages. He didn't draw away when an officer ruffled his hair. Katsuki knew this would hurt, but he didn't realize how bad it would be. With Auntie, she had friends, at least 3 very close friends. Deku had only him and he hadn't treated him the best. Right, not, Deku probably thought he'd lost everyone. 𝐲𝐸 downed his 5th cup of coffee since that morning. Telling a kid his only parent had passed away was bad enough, but telling them that parent passed away because of grief over their kid? 𝐲𝐸 didn't know how doctors did this so often. 𝐬𝐻, you've drunken enough coffee, I think. Pretty soon your blood count will be full of caffeine. 𝐲𝐸 looked at the blonde in front of him, tiredly. You don't get to judge. You drink Monster Energy with hot sauce. I'm allowed another cup of coffee after that disaster. Yamada laughed off 𝐲𝐸's reply and instead grabbed the file off of his desk. So, this is the kid, right? He doesn't have any living relatives and seems only receptive to heroes, especially you. I think you should take him in. 𝐲𝐸 changed his stare into a glare. He didn't have time to raise a traumatized child. Especially not one prone to shutting down as often as himself. If you think about it, he's like you anyway. Who's better at putting up with you than you? You and Kayama, actually. You put up with my shutdowns and shutting people out for years. If you really want to find this kid a home, why don't you take him in? 𝐲𝐸, he seems to really like you, and I've got 3 jobs. I can't take care of him. Also, I'm too loud. My yelling might trigger something. 𝐲𝐸 threw away the disposable cup before he could be convinced to pour himself a 6th. I've got to teach and still go out at night for patrol. And I have to find time to sleep. Do you think I have time to take care of him? Also, your yelling can be muffled. If you feel you need to scream, cover your mouth. Yamada laughed again. Why did he find everything so funny? Oh, 𝐬𝐻, you crack me up. I'm just trying to push you in the direction you're basically already going. You haven't realized it, but you're a father figure to that kid. Now, say hi for me when you visit him next. 𝐲𝐸 sighed as he took the file back from Yamada. Nothing about this made him want to work as a hero. But if he wanted things to be easy, he wouldn't have tried so hard at his first sports festival to get in. Tsukachi, to what do I owe the pleasure of this call? Eraserhead's gruff voice laced with sarcasm asked through the phone. Midoriya has. Naomasa paused as Eraserhead sighed on the other end. I'm on my way. Actually, don't come. We need you to stay away for now. He's unreachable, momentarily. We're hoping he calms down on his own, so no one else gets hurt by his quirk, but... Tsukachi, what happened? Naomasa brought the phone away from his ear as he listened to more screaming. Eraserhead, I'll have to call you back. Never mind what I said, get down here as fast as possible. And bring an ambulance with you. Naomasa hung up before he could hear the hero's response. This kid's quirk was more dangerous than anyone thought, and it got worse when they realized he could use the thread of the clothing everyone else wore. Everyone's still wearing enough clothing, please exit the building. Everyone else, hope you don't get cut by the threads. Please tell me you haven't tried to approach Midoriya? Sir. Midoriya appears to be asleep and experiencing a nightmare. Naomasa ran his fingers through his hair. This was bound to be a long night. Katsuki stomped into the police station for the 5th time this week. Fucking hell, he couldn't be the only person Deku wanted to be around. What about Mr. Hobo Hero? Or All Might? Or anyone who didn't have to worry about training for UA's entrance exam? Damn it. Inside was an actual nightmare. Several officers wore clothing too big for them. Several broken bottles and bomb canisters lay around the floor. A huge patch of the floor is burnt. The detective is walking around with water and paramedics were running around checking blood pressure and distributing bandages. What the fuck? Katsuki carefully avoided any particularly concerning pieces of floor debris. It just seemed to increase as he got closer to Deku. What happened here? Was Deku even alive? Did someone attack him? All Might and Eraserhead stood just outside of Deku's room. Both turned around when Katsuki approached. Katsuki got a glimpse of Deku inside his room, wide awake. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. What the hell is all over the floor? And why does it look like someone tried to attack Deku? Both had the nerve to sigh in exasperation. How dare they? Look, Izuku had a nightmare and his quirk went out of control. We handled it. That's all. Katsuki stood dumbfounded. It's bad enough that he had a quirk, but he had a strong quirk too. How the fuck did any of this happen? That's it. You two know something. I don't know what, but you know it. If I don't get answers, I start tearing this place apart. Start talking. All Might and Eraserhead shared a look and Katsuki debated threatening a pro-hero with his quirk. Fuck whatever jail cell they threw him in, whatever they knew about Deku's situation, he wanted to know. Sit down. This might take a while. Katsuki stared down both of them as they all took their seats. All Might deflated and Katsuki had to hold back his surprise. Let me get this straight, you fought a 200-year-old supervillain. This grandpa villain kidnapped Deku. This guy's name is All For One and you were convinced you killed him. All For One can gift and steal quirks. All For One forced Deku to take a quirk. This quirk went fucking haywire and no one knows exactly what it does or how powerful it is. Did I miss anything? Actually, we know what the quirk does, we've been monitoring his usage. Fucking amazing, detective. What's his quirk do then? He uses thread to create different objects. So far I haven't seen a limit to what he can create, although the toy explosive cases were filled with C4 so we think it's what he can visualize. Katsuki swerved around the detective and crossed over to Deku's room. How sad is it that this is his room now? Deku looked over to see it was Katsuki entering but he stared at the floor anyway. Deku, will you talk to me, please? Deku didn't respond. In his hands was a spool of red thread. It appeared to be wet. Deku dropped it and it unspooled, fading into white and dry. Katsuki stopped Deku from grabbing the thread. Deku, can you hold out your arms? I need to check something. Deku held his arms up. He didn't argue with any suggestions since he found out. He shared almost nothing but he never argued or brought up his boundaries or anything. Katsuki pushed up Deku's sleeves. Underneath, red, coated his forearm. Just his left arm. A thin cut rounded from the inner corner of his wrist to his outer mid-forearm. Blood dripped down the sides of his arm in a memorizing motion. Katsuki watched as it dripped onto the wooden floor. Completely transfixed by the motion. Nausea hit him quickly. Fuck. Katsuki pulled off his shirt and wrapped it around Deku's arm. Even with just finally getting out of a cast thanks to Recovery Girl, he still found a way to fuck up his recovery. It's like he wanted to stay stuck at the beginning. Like he never wanted to be helped. Why couldn't Katsuki fucking help him out of this? Alright, I need you to answer a few questions, but first, will you let them give you proper medical treatment? Nod or shake your head. Deku nodded his head and Katsuki stood to get someone who wasn't busy trying to find clothes that fit or an unused water bottle. Izuku squeezed his eyes shut as All Might cleaned his wound. Should he call him Yagi like the detective does, considering he's in his smaller form? An ace bandage wrapped firmly around his arm. The pain reminded him this wasn't a dream. Was his mom's death real? Izuku hadn't seen her once since he arrived. She hadn't tried to call. Izuku even saw on the news his picture for half a second, when his hair was still long and his arm was broken and his face was covered in dirt. If Izuku was up there for even a brief moment, Mom would be here. Mom really was gone and he hurt all of these people because of a stupid nightmare. Because he blamed everyone else for what he wanted to be a lie but knew to be the truth. Because he couldn't see the blame was on himself. Because he couldn't accept that he killed his mother. The cut on his arm wasn't just a reminder things were real, it was a punishment. He deserved a lot worse for hurting the people who cared about him, who've done nothing but help him, who don't even ask for anything in return. Izuku deserved to bleed out right now. Izuku would normally be fanboying over All Might being this close to him, but he couldn't conjure the energy for that. Honestly, it didn't mean much to him anymore. Sensei hated All Might with a burning passion. In fact, he hated him so much that he made Tomura into who he is today. Tomura. Shimura Tenko. A relative of All Might's master. Someone he couldn't save to torture him. He even set up 𝗤𝗵𝗏 running to him. It was messed up, but either 𝗤𝗵𝗏 didn't know or didn't care. Izuku couldn't share information like that with anyone, especially not Sensei's literal worst enemy. Sensei wanted to tell All Might to his face, just to see the defeat in his eyes. He was evil like that. But Sensei always got his way. Sensei wasn't always evil, sometimes he was just brutally just. If Izuku hurt someone, they hurt him back. Emotional pain and blows to the pride became physical. Touching others' items resulted in isolation. Yelling or talking back resulted in getting shut up. Getting shut up always ended with Izuku crying as quietly as he could. It was always Sensei disciplining him. Sometimes 𝗤𝗵𝗏 did, but Sensei always got the last laugh. The last blow. The last win. And sometimes that involved destroying his loved ones. But other times that involved destroying his body. This body didn't feel like anything more than a tool to let out anger and frustration for 𝗤𝗵𝗏. A tool for Sensei to control his mind. A tool for Eraserhead to deal with. A tool for Kaachan to fix and watch break repeatedly. A tool for everyone to look at or use and leave after it has expired. Izuku shifted his thoughts back to Kaachan as he came into the room. He didn't think he would be able to answer his questions, but it was the least he could do. He did make Kaachan have to come over when he has school. When Izuku could just get over his issues and let other people live their lives. Alright, Deku, let's start with what you know about your quirk. Sensei had given Izuku this quirk simply because it didn't fit with 𝗤𝗵𝗏's personality. Also, because it required sight. If Izuku couldn't visualize his creations, he couldn't create them. Some of what he made ended up being like toys because that's what Sensei got 𝗤𝗵𝗏 and what Izuku could see. He was never allowed to see anything more real than that in case he tried to make something out of his own clothing. Izuku found it funny. He hated being without full layers of clothing and hated being around people for longer than 5 minutes unless he knew he could trust them. He could never make a bomb out of his clothes there. He couldn't. Maybe Sensei knew what he was doing when he punished him that way, when he lied and said Izuku was special. When he forced him to go through that. Maybe he knew even if Izuku could visualize a bomb and figure out what goes into one, he wouldn't do that simply because he'd be too scared to, which is why he rarely limited his internet usage. That, and it was another thing he took as punishment and used to gain his compliance. I can create things out of thread. I have to be able to visualize it and I have to know the ingredients. Even a well-known nickname would work, so I could make weed gummies if I wanted to. Kaachan chuckled at that. Izuku chewed his lip nervously. Kaachan didn't laugh at anything he said before he left, but Izuku always thought it was because Izuku hadn't been loud enough or because he wasn't funny. Maybe Kaachan just didn't get the jokes then. Or maybe a certain tone of voice. Okay, what have you been thinking since you heard the news? The news about Mom. Kaachan wanted to know his thought process. It was a crazy convoluted mess bouncing from one traumatic experience to the next. Sometimes he would be blaming everyone around him for not helping her, and sometimes he would blame himself for not staying with her. Izuku didn't say any of that though. He simply shrugged. Don't want to answer that, fine. Just say that. I don't want to answer that. Okay, why did you hurt yourself? Izuku picked at the tight wrap on his arm. The beige color is stained with red from the blood. Izuku sighed as he looked at Kaachan. It feels good. It reminds me this isn't some twisted dream or a fantasy world created by a madman. Also, Izuku can punish himself for his actions, but Kaachan doesn't need to know that. What about your broken arm? How did you get that? Izuku rubbed his arm. His right arm had been broken. He had gotten so mad, he was tired of the pain. He hated walking on eggshells around 𝗤𝗵𝗏. He hated having to keep his head low and apologize and just take it all like it didn't affect him. Izuku snapped at him. He screamed at him until his throat was raw. Sensei asked 𝗤𝗵𝗏 how he should punish Izuku, but 𝗤𝗵𝗏 reached him before Sensei could even order him to be warped by Johnny. Izuku had almost blacked out. His throat had bruises for a week. Sensei had forced him to train Nomu as punishment. Nomu snapped his arm and a rib. It almost punctured his lung. The doctor fixed that. But only because Sensei wanted to hurt him more. 𝐻𝐸𝐬 had screwed up and been caught by a passerby. Hiding out in an abandoned building got the police called on you. Sensei left Izuku behind to see if that would get them off of their trail. He would likely kill him or manipulate the events if he didn't end up in a jail cell soon. A strong guy. I fought. Does this guy have a name? Probably. Izuku played with the edges of the shirt Kaachan gave him. He wrapped his arm with this before All Might came in to clean it. Izuku should give it back so Kaachan can wash it and wear it again, but he wanted to keep it. Both as a reminder of Kaachan always being there for him and as a reminder that he did bleed. He is alive. This is all real or horrifically fucked up. Do you want to talk about anything you went through? Just to give me a little understanding. Maybe things they did you didn't like, so I never do that to you. Izuku ground his teeth together to stop himself from gasping. He wasn't used to being asked questions like that. Why didn't Sensei ever ask if something made him feel bad? Because he already knew it would. It was punishment for Izuku's behavior. 𝐻𝐸𝐬 liked to make fun of Izuku when he felt bad. He asked what made him feel bad to set up those scenarios. I don't like when people touch my head. Sensei pet his head and ruffled his hair. He played with his curls and once kissed his forehead. Those were supposed to be sweet things, but Sensei did it to make you feel good so he could tear you down worse. I don't like things near my mouth or stomach, and I don't want anything interfering with my arm space. Izuku needed space to hold up his arms and protect himself. He needed to be able to fend off any people. He needed what Sensei did to him to never happen again. He hated that Sensei had done that. Izuku swallowed the vomit before it could come too far up. It was gross, but better than getting in trouble for throwing up. He knew throwing up, especially on who you were talking to, was a big mistake. At least physical punishments made sense to him. I would rather not talk about what Sensei said or did. Actually forget I brought him up. Don't lock the door, I want to be able to leave when I want to. I would prefer if someone could bring me strawberries. Sensei would lock him in his room whenever Izuku tried to occupy his time with one of 𝐻𝐸𝐬's almost untouched toys. 𝐻𝐸𝐬 would get mad and Izuku would be left alone with his thoughts. It was preferable to other punishments, but it still hurt. The door was always locked until Izuku learned his lesson. Strawberries had always been Izuku's favorite fruit. He loves 𝐻𝐸𝐬, but strawberries hit differently. Izuku looked like a strawberry when he blushed. He and Kaachan used to look for strawberry plants and pick the fruit in the summer. Do you want anything else? I can get you a pillow and a blanket. Maybe a stuffed animal or something. Thanks, Kaachan, but I'm okay. I prefer to sleep without one. A stuffed animal could be taken away when you don't comply. A pillow could be used to beat you until you bruised no matter how much you cried. A blanket could be used to strangle you or tie you to the bed. It could be used to hide everything so no one knew and no one believed you. A blanket would feel like someone on top of you, and Izuku hated that feeling. He can't just stay at the station. He's a 15-year-old boy, he should be in school. We know Eraserhead. It's been 2 months since we rescued him, why hasn't anything been done about that? The mere suggestion of him changing his clothes had him thrown into a panic attack. The idea he would have to leave the building for more than a brisk walk for some sunlight had him create a cocoon of fabric. The idea of being around kids his age had him sobbing and trying to create a knife. I don't have to explain why. Is anyone hurt? Just Yagi. He pulled the knife away from him, but not before getting the sharp edge of the blade. His hand is okay though. Nothing seriously injured. 𝐻𝐸𝐬 sighed. This child never ceased to worry him. I'll try to convince him. What school were you planning on sending him to? Aldera, that's where his friend, Katsuki, goes. I figured having a friend would help him settle in better. Excellent choice. Did you tell him that? Not yet. We can't get over to him. He pitches a fit as soon as we try to open the door. I swear, look, I'll handle it. This kid will go to school and will work out his living situation afterward. In the meantime, get him a shower and some fresh, soft, clothes. Tsukachi agreed to that and hung up. Shota couldn't handle this, hero work and classroom stuff all at the same time. It was just too much. Maybe he should find someone else to teach his class. Quit the whole teaching thing. He never wanted to do it in the first place. Shota knew he wouldn't quit teaching even if he wanted to. His students needed a teacher that could actually teach them how life worked. If Izuku didn't have intense anxiety and couldn't handle more than 2 other people in a room with him, he would introduce his students to him as an example of what real life looked like. Might as well bring a cup of coffee. This will only become more stressful. Izuku glared at Eraserhead through the cracked door. As much as he liked him and trusted him, he was not going to listen to him. When Izuku last went to school, 6 years prior, the kids were mean to him. The teacher talked too fast and didn't care if he struggled. And he was made to sit in the back. The smell of coffee made Izuku perk up. He liked coffee. It was one of the things Sensei allowed him to have. He never took it away from him or used his love of coffee against him. Tomura even made him a cup of really strong coffee once. Eraserhead steps into the room. One of the bombs Izuku made starts ticking. All of them fade away as Eraserhead stares him down. That isn't fair. Kid, like it or not, you do have to go to school. It's a legal requirement. I live in a police station, I might as well be a criminal. Considering Izuku had spent the last 6 years with criminals, they should be asking what crimes he's committed. Let's count them up. Housing a wanted criminal. Well, he was the one being housed. Creating explosives, something he'd done while under police surveillance. Using his quirk unlawfully. Look, they set you up at Aldera where you can go to school with your friend. I'm sure we can get you all of the same classes. School with Kaachan wouldn't be so bad, but would Kaachan be mean surrounded by all of them? Would he ignore Izuku or insult him? Was Kaachan only nice to him alone, or would he still be his friend in school? Only one day. If I don't like it, I want to never go back. 1 week at school and then you can make that decision. 1 week would be enough time to analyze everyone's behavior around Izuku. 1 week would be enough for Kaachan to reveal whether he'd stick by Izuku around everyone else. 1 week would be enough to decide whether he liked the teachers. Fine, 1 week of school. Thank you for trying. I haven't done it yet. May I have some of your coffee? Izuku really wanted some coffee. Tsukachi never let him have any, and no one else has said anything about getting him a cup. 15 is old enough for coffee. Sure. Here, blow on it though, it's hot. Izuku wrapped his fingers around the thermos. The warmth made his fingers ache. Izuku made fingertip oven mitts. The coffee inside is dark brown, almost black. It smells of cinnamon and sugar. Steam rises and clouds Izuku's vision. Izuku takes a sip. The coffee burns his tongue. He can taste the caffeine content. And the sugar. Izuku cringes at how sweet the coffee is. He holds back a gag. UHG, how can you drink this? It's like sweetened sewage. What did you do? It's like you're aiming for an early grave. This is what I have to drink to stay on my feet 22 hours a day just so I can handle both of my 2 paid jobs and any problems you cause. I haven't had coffee that horrific since Tomura experimented with Monster Energy and liquid licorice instead of water. Izuku snapped his jaw shut. He hadn't meant to say that, he just got a bit excited. He hadn't meant to mention Tomura. Sensei would punish him for that in some way. He gave away too much. Eraserhead had the nerve to smirk at Izuku's response, and he didn't seem like he even noticed the name drop. Maybe Sensei won't get too mad since the heroes don't know more. Izuku could only hope. Thanks for the coffee. Even if it's the worst thing you've ever tasted. even if it's literally made with sewage. I like coffee too much to not appreciate a sip. I guess I could get you a morning cup, although I hear caffeine makes anxiety worse. Izuku lowered his voice to be as similar to Tamura's or Sensei's when they were threatening him. If you make decaf, I will find a way to eviscerate you from existence. You really do sound like me. I won't give you decaf, but you will only get a small cup daily. Izuku is getting coffee. Finally, something to make staying here better. Honestly, it was more interesting to be with Sensei and Tamura because at least they gave him something to do. Izuku's brain has been trying to fill in the countless hours with reminders of what Sensei has done. Technically they're his memories. Eraserhead left his room. Izuku created an Eraserhead plush. He never got to keep his toys when people visited because he was scared they'd take them if he was in trouble or they wanted him to listen. No one had threatened him with taking anything mainly because he didn't have much. Eraserhead would probably get him whatever he wanted. What did Izuku want? Something to do here. Something simple. Even music would be better than just trying to drown out his negative thoughts with worse ones. A notebook and a pencil. Izuku wanted a notebook and a pencil. Oh, and one of those cute little plant things. They're called succulents. Would he be allowed to take care of one? Could he take care of one? Eraserhead re-enters with paper and a pen. Oh, that must be the school form. Izuku hid the plush in his shirt. The extra cloth feeling made him relax more. You're gonna help me fill out your forms. You will have to wear a uniform, but I can guarantee no one will be near you when you shower or change. Will that work? Sensei could do anything with no one there. Tamura could be in a completely different area or the next room over and still have no idea. Sensei would make sure anyone else was completely unaware of what was happening. Could you have someone stand guard? I don't like being completely alone. Izuku chewed his lip as he waited for a denial of his request or an alternative plan or anything. Eraserhead remained quiet as he filled out basic information for Izuku. I'm not sure, we'll see if we can work out your request. Will you be okay if we can't? Izuku thought about taking off his shirt. When he needed punishment that could be written off as a gift like Sensei always did. The sheer concept of being that vulnerable around people he couldn't trust made him sick. Any allergies? Food or medication? Peanuts, that's it I think. The rest of their time is spent on Eraserhead filling out the form and checking with Izuku to see that it's accurate. Nomesa sighed as he listened to the report. They couldn't find this girl at all. She went on the run last year after attacking a fellow student with a box cutter and drinking his blood. Since then they've suspected she aided in a few more cases where the victims have signs of bloodletting. Her most recent appearance was just outside the mall in the next city over. She might show up in this area. We need to find a way to get her. What do her victims have in common? Blood type, appearance, age, quirk, anything. All of them so far have been within 12 to 18 years of age. Multiple blood types, although B shows up most with B+ making the majority. O plus blood and O are tied. AB+ only and no A types. We asked the victims' families. To describe them, and common traits used were cute, kind, assertive, and friendly. All different quirks. Males and females. Half of them get into physical fights or do physical sports. When asked for favorite foods, almost all of them picked something sweet, according to friends. I have an idea. Naomasa turned in his seat to face Midoriya. He didn't normally come out of his room unless he was going to the bathroom, or more recently, going to school. He won't deny the kid's ideas. He did help catch a villain no one else could catch. But Eraserhead didn't want him involved. Kid, this one isn't like other villains. Because she's a teenage girl? I think I can figure this out. If she's in the area, she might be checking out a nearby middle school. Especially when school's in session or there are lots of kids there. She'll be looking for cute kids who like to fight. That's what most of them have in common, right? And you said anyone with B or O blood would be targeted. I could be a lure. 𝐀𝐦 released a sigh as the other officers in the room debated his plan. Technically it could work, but he did not want to be the one to explain to Eraserhead why Midoriya got into a fight at school, or worse, got attacked by a serial killer. If I agree to this, you have to protect yourself. You cannot go through with anything without making sure it's safe or okay with me, understood? Yes, sir. That's another problem they could handle. Himiko watched the boy create a knife out of thin air. Himiko thought he was cute. He looked like 𝐬𝐡𝐢, with curly hair and a round face. He had the same serious face when fighting. The boy Himiko is falling in love with is fighting a blonde kid. The blonde kid is taller and more muscular. Now that she thinks about it, the boy is too thin for him to be healthy. He's like me then. If he just creates weapons with his quirk, then he's a monster too. Himiko bounded over to the boy. The blonde kid left when Himiko started approaching. The boy she likes is alone with her now. Hi. The boy looks up at her in surprise. I'm Toga Himiko, what's your name? If she's going to stab him, she wants to know his name. Izuku. Izuku, I think you're really cute. Izuku blushes a shade of deep red. So cute. Izuku has old cuts on his arms but no blood. Himiko pulls out her box cutter. Can we trade? This box cutter is a nightmare. Plus, knives make better cuts. Sure. Himiko giggles as she takes the knife. Izuku is super nervous. She's gonna love drinking his blood. I wanna see you all covered in blood. Can I? It's polite to ask first, but even if he says no, she's still going to do it. Can I tell my dad I'll be home late first? Then you can, cut me up. Okay. Himiko has never had a crush agree to her demands. This felt better than when they screamed at her for wanting to see them covered in blood. For wanting to drink their blood. For wanting to be with them and be them. Okay, done. Himiko raised her knife to Izuku's face. She cut a long line on his cheek. He didn't even flinch at the pain. Himiko stepped closer and then he backed away. Stop moving. I want to drink your blood. Himiko leaned close to his face and licked the blood off of his cheek. Izuku tried not to cringe. Toga was getting too close to him. She already licked his cut, at least there are endorphins in spit. That knife he gave her he planned on crumbling when Tsukachi arrived. He just had to hold out. Unfortunately, it was hard to hold out when he felt like he was back there again. Sensei waiting to use him how he pleases. Tamura ready to rip off his head. Toga. Please, call me Himiko. Izuku, do like me too? I don't know you that well, so I don't know. Maybe. That won't do. Do you want to know me too? We'll talk then. Izuku nods and gets prepared to handle talking about himself without giving everything away. This won't go well. He asked Tsukachi to not come in a police car. Himiko would bolt if that happened. So, what's your favorite color? Mine is red. I just love red. Oh, mine is red too. Something easy, he can answer that. As long as things stick to ordinary things like what he likes, dislikes, and desires. This will be fine. We already have something in common. How do you feel about horror movies? Personally, I like horror movies, there's always so much blood. There is, I'm attracted to the goth aesthetic, so I honestly really like horror. It doesn't scare me. Horror movies can't scare someone who has lived through real horror. We could have a horror movie date. This is perfect. Now you ask me a question you want to. No? Okay. Izuku has multiple questions, but considering his ride isn't there, he needs one that won't be offensive and isn't stupid. I don't know if I should ask. The only questions might be offensive or stupid. I won't be offended. You want to know more about me? Ask away. Is your love of blood at all associated with your quirk? It is. You're super smart. I drink blood because I've always had the urge, and I've had the urge because my quirk wants to be used. My quirk lets me become the people I love. See? In front of him, 𝗁𝗏 transforms into him, exactly as he looks now. Her eyes are wide and full of excitement, nothing like how he normally looks. She could take someone's place and not be noticed if they didn't know what they were looking for. This is what I meant. I like you better as a blonde. Oh, okay. You like me better as myself? Yeah, you are cute. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 doesn't know if that was a mistake or not because the girl goes silent. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 wonders if he can signal Kaachan to come back, end the charade, and get out of there. No one has ever called me cute before. Thank you, 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬. You're very sweet. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 relaxes as 𝗁𝗏 begins to play with the doll he created to calm himself. It's a doll of his mom. She looks happy. It makes him happy. That's a doll of mom. She was the sweetest person ever. She was all I had for years. You look like her, may I ask what happened to her? 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 didn't like talking about his mom because it hurt. He felt at ease with 𝗁𝗏 now, but he still didn't want to talk about the whole nightmare of the last 6 years ago. Too much grief and not enough support. It was 6 years ago. I'm sorry to hear that. I wish I had people like that in my life. Like what? People who do good things for you and care about you. Family, I guess. Well, you have me now. I'll do nice things for you. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬, when you fall in love or get your first crush, please be just as sweet to them as you are to me. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 was surprised by this statement. He wasn't really thinking about romance right now. 𝗁𝗏, I think I can answer now. I do like you. What do you like about me? 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 didn't have to think too hard about why he liked her. You're kind and you care. You put me at ease and you remind me of myself, hurt by a broken world but still loving to all things life has to offer. You're interesting and weird in a good way, and you have a pretty smile. 𝗁𝗏's smile widens and 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 can see her fangs clearer. Blood is on her teeth. Only a little though. It's his blood. He's never had an issue with helping people. Do you want to come to my house? He doesn't want her to get arrested, but she needs the help. He will fight for help. I'd love to. I'll tell my dad to come pick us up. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 tells 𝗬𝗏𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐬 to hurry up. He's on his way. Do you want more of my blood? Absolutely. You're just the sweetest, 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬. 𝗬𝗏𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐬 catches Kaachan moving behind the wall's edge. 𝗬𝗏𝗀𝗀 takes the knife from 𝗁𝗏 and cuts open his arm. He hands back over the knife and allows her to drink his blood and play with the knife. 𝗬𝗏𝗀𝗀 asks about 𝗁𝗏's home life before she ran away. She admits it wasn't fun. It was horrifying to listen to. My parents would ask me constantly, why can't you just be normal? They never wanted to hug me or tuck me in. They're probably happy I left. You can stay with me as long as you'd like. I would like to stay with you forever. Okay, if you say so. 𝗬𝗻𝗀𝗀 caught himself mid-laugh. He hasn't laughed in years. Was he really that comfortable with a girl he just met over Sensei and Tomura ever? She gave off friendly vibes. Your laugh is cute, 𝗬𝗻𝗀𝗀. Thanks. You don't get complimented often, do you? No, but I'm used to it, so it's okay. It hurts you. It wasn't a question, it was an observation. You hold a lot of pain inside. I won't push, but I'd like us to be honest with each other. I've been honest. I meant about how you're feeling. Although, if you don't want to talk about what's bothering you, I won't pressure you. Just admitting you aren't fine is enough for me. Okay. I'm not good. Nothing has been good for the last 6 years. Have you been making it bad? Did you choose for your life to be bad? No? Have you been living life the way you want to? Not really. I've been living, in fear. Start living life the way you want to. That's what I've been doing. Here. I don't know if you have a phone, but here's my number. Call me. I have to take a rain check on meeting your parents, but I'll see you around. Bye. Bye. Izuku drew back the thread that created the knife. Toga would be gone by the time Tsukachi finally arrived. Maybe she knew Izuku wanted to help her get arrested. Oh, well. You took too long. She's gone. Shota looks down at Izuku. He has a long cut on his arm and a small one on his face. There are tiny ones all over his chest. His Gakuren jacket lay on the ground with an imprint on it, implying someone sat on it. Did you use your quirk on her? Nope. I only made the fake prop. Like I said I would. You sure are cheery. Katsuki walks over to them. I made a friend. Can we get going now? I have an essay I need to finish. Both of you get in the car. Tsukachi, we'll try again some other time. Shota sets his head in his hands. Izuku didn't look any worse than he normally did. Those injuries could be handled easily. And by the angle of the one on his arm, he did that himself. Izuku doesn't let anything get close to his face so he wouldn't cut his cheek under any circumstances. He appeared to be lost in thought. Shota could ask after they dropped Katsuki off. Did you gather any useful information? She really likes blood. It's a quirk thing. I'm not entirely sure about it, but I know she can transform her appearance by consuming someone's blood. She didn't have a good home life and she has only me as a friend. Thank you, Midoriya. If she uses her quirk, she will be considered a villain. No amount of age or probable cause will get her out of prison time. Izuku shook his head. He would find a way. Eraserhead, may I borrow your phone? I need to make a call. Go ahead. Izuku types in the number he got. Hopefully, Toga picked up. He needed to warn her. Hi, Toga. Hi, Izuku. So you do have a phone? No, this is my dad's. My other dad is a cop and he's looking for you. If you don't use your quirk to hurt anyone, you won't have any villain charges and you won't go to prison if you get caught. I know how the law works. Are you saying you'll turn me in? I don't want to. What I'm saying is, as a failsafe, only use your quirk to be like the people you love, and if you are hurting someone, don't use your quirk. I get it. You're helping me stay safe and still letting me be me. You really do understand me, Izuku. Yeah, I'll call again another time. I need to finish my homework and then go to bed. Good night. Good night. Izuku hung up the phone and slipped it back into Eraserhead's pocket. Eraserhead isn't his dad, but he is the main one to take care of him, so he might as well be. I'll get you your own phone if you want. Maybe. Isn't that expensive? Yes. For most people, they can't afford a good phone. I can afford 12 replacement phones for the one I have. As long as you don't call 800 people a day, it'll be fine expense-wise. Izuku nodded. He wanted to speak with Toga without Eraserhead wondering what he was doing. Toga is the first girl who willingly talked to him. She really liked Izuku, she might have said she loved him. Toga deserved someone better. Someone who could prove their existence mattered. Someone who could look at her and not think, I hope she gets arrested so I can help her. Someone who wasn't broken or filled with cracks and exuding rot. Izuku wouldn't ever be good for her in anything more than a friendship. Was he even a good friend? The kids at school like him enough to talk to him. Kaachan likes him best of everyone he talks to. Toga said he was kind and sweet. This was exhausting. Izuku hated the panic. The confusion. The calm. And then the cycle restarts. Why couldn't he just be normal? Wait. Wasn't that what Toga's parents asked her? And didn't that hurt her? Has he been hurting himself by thinking? Damn it, brain. Izuku focused on the color red. Red like roses or poppies. Red like his shoes or Kaachan's eyes. Red like blood or sunset. Red like energy. Red like love. Red like clay. Red like their country's flag. Red like a rainbow. Red like a heart. Red like hawk's wings. Red like fire. Red like anger. Red like a strawberry. Izuku breathed out a knot in his stomach. He felt much better. All it took was a little focusing. So, was the first week of school that bad? Yes, it was. Children wouldn't stop asking me questions and then they wouldn't stop talking to me. Now I've got 43 phone numbers and nowhere to put them. You're exaggerating. And you're being mean. I don't like this school thing. You really don't like it? If you don't show up, those 43 phone numbers will just be that and you won't have the 43 names and faces to go with them. You're evil. And you aren't as intransigent as you act. I got you the larger uniform like you wanted. Thank you. Sorry, thanks. I appreciate it. Anytime, kid. Izuku happily tried on his newer uniform and 𝐸𝐴 smiled. This kid didn't get to be happy often enough. He needed this. 𝐸𝐴 finished grading papers while Izuku talked about all 43 different people who bugged him at school. It was amusing, to say the least. He forgot most of their names but he remembered some from when he was younger. One of them apologized to him. And then Tanaka-kun asked me if I grew any taller because he couldn't tell. I told him to shove a tree down his throat. 𝐸𝐴 snorted at that one. He will admit, that is kind of funny. Okamura said I couldn't touch the ceiling by jumping so I made bouncy shoes, like in Subway's Surfer, and jumped onto the ceiling. I didn't come down until he apologized. 𝐸𝐴 turned around an assignment and asked Izuku to read it for mistakes. There should be a comma there and the usage of and is way over the marker. Also, the first letter wasn't capitalized. 𝐸𝐴 was helping Yamada out with grading papers and if this kid could figure out a first-year English student's mistakes, then he could probably take on high school. What high school are you planning on attending? Ha! Why would you assume I want to go to high school? Most kids your age want to go to high school. Izuku thought about Eraserhead's question. Before everything, there was a school he wanted to go to. Honestly, who didn't want to go to UA? But that's when he was dead set on the hero path. Did he even still want to do that? Izuku wanted to save people. That's all he's ever wanted to do. Being a hero is a logical first step. Saving people is what heroes do. If he is back on that track then he needs to work harder. He's not strong enough for the hero course if he decides to go. I think I'd want to go to UA because you would be there and Kaachan would be there. Izuku goes to his new room, a break room, and lays down. He clutches the new plush to his chest with the other two and falls asleep. He tries to, at least. Katsuki peeked at Deku's notebook. His writing is completely unreadable. What the fuck is he even writing? Deku mumbles something and starts writing more rapidly. His muttering picks up as he's going. And if I do 20 of these daily, then I'll get strong enough to lift an armchair by myself. He's making a workout regimen. Is he really that bored over there? Do they not give him anything to do? Katsuki has another reason to yell at the heroes and the police. Katsuki fiddles with a pencil. This teacher never fucking stops talking about stupid shit. Katsuki did not want to hear another story about this bitch's ex. He screwed you over, cool. Go key his car, god damn. Deku, when your arms are strong enough, punch me in the face and knock me the fuck out. Especially when this class starts. Bakugo, don't interrupt my class. Now, as I was saying. Katsuki slams his head down. Stupid natural brain reaction to not hurt yourself. Why can't you malfunction instead of my concentration and memory? Katsuki scribbles out ideas for his hero costume again. He needs the perfect costume. So far the design has been pretty consistent. An explosive theme where he looks like a bomb and has bombs too. He wants a huge X on his shirt. Deku, Katsuki whispered loudly. What is my costume missing? I feel like something isn't there. Your explosions cause a lot of smoke, right? And you want a smoke bomb included, too? Maybe a gas mask or something. So your lungs don't get destroyed. Katsuki thought about it. Other villains could have potentially dangerous fumes and other things. Plus, Katsuki could make a gas mask look cool as hell. He'd go for one over the nose to see how that looked. And he should sketch one with a full mask. Hey, Bakugo, who's the girl Midoriya talks about? Ha! I don't know. Ask him. Come on, you two are together all the time. Look, Nishimura, I don't care. I don't even know what girl you mean. Wow, that implies he gets around. I mean, Toga. Do you know if they're together? Katsuki thought about that. He did have to listen to her fawn all over Deku. Deku acted around her differently from him. Maybe it's because that was the first girl close to his age he talked to, but for some reason that didn't satisfy him. Yeah, Vampire Girl has a crush on him. They aren't together and Deku wouldn't date her anyway. Any other annoying/dumb questions, or can I return to more important matters? You can continue drawing. I think you're wrong about him. He talks about her like she hung the sun and the moon. Whatever, Katsuki huffed. That girl wouldn't hesitate to stab/kill Deku. She does like him and thinks he understands her or whatever, but she isn't safe. Katsuki knows Deku wouldn't think he's good for her, but she's not good for him. Hey, Kaachan, how come you don't get along with everyone else? Because they're incompetent and don't have enough drive. Oh. What do you do when you want to help someone but don't know how? Katsuki thought of how he wanted to help Deku. How he had no idea what was going through his head ever. And he was just willing to be there for him when he wanted him. You be there for them, and when they want your help, you're right there to help. Even if it's something as small as holding a cup for them, it'll help. Deku nods and goes back to writing. His writing is slow, which means he's thinking over things. Katsuki sets his sketches next to each other. The one with the half mask includes his eye mask, but thinking about it, smoke and gas could irritate his eyes. The one with the full mask could be skull-shaped and protect his eyes. He could hide his face from cameras too, which he wanted to do. He's not exactly a fan of the media. Especially after last April. Katsuki made a gross face as he thought of the sludge villain. In April, he got attacked by some gross sludge thing who wanted to use his body to hide. He tried to shove himself down his throat. He couldn't breathe for 5 minutes. All Might had to save him. Katsuki had been fighting, so some things caught fire and the smoke drew a crowd. The media was unbearable. Some of them were so goddamn annoying. The news made it seem like he was some weak-ass victim. He could handle his damn self. Deku, someone he called weak, that's where the nickname came from, handled worse and made it out. He's not okay, but he made it out. Katsuki was fine from that whole ordeal, and everyone around him needed to start handling it as such. Snap. Kaachan, is everything alright? Deku turned around in his chair. Katsuki's broken pencil lay on the desk. The inside was scorched from how much his sweat had rubbed on it. I'm fine. People are pissing me off. Oh. You can use my pencil, I'm done writing now. Katsuki knew for a fact he would need to write some more. And he was done with his stuff anyway. I don't need one. Keep it. Deku withdrew the pencil but still looked back at him. Why does he never lose his kindness? After all the shit he went through up to 9 years old. And then all the shit over those 6 years that affected him horribly. And things still haven't gotten better. The bell rang. Finally. Katsuki waited next to Deku's desk while he packed his things. Deku always took more time so the hall would be clear and he wouldn't get trapped between people. The teachers never cared. They were on their way to lunch too. Sorry, I know you don't like waiting for your lunch. It's fine. I wanted to ask you something. Go ahead. I can't guarantee I'll have an answer. Why do you stay kind? Even after everything you've experienced, you still ask, are you okay, while you bleed from obvious wounds. Why? That was really flowery. I thought you hated poetry. The poetry section in our literature class is rotting away my brain. Ha! To answer your question, I'm still kind because I was raised this way. I was raised to be kind. Almost everyone is raised to be kind, but sometimes they aren't. What's the real reason? I don't want anyone to hurt like I do. Deku smiled, and it was the second most heartbreaking Katsuki had seen. The first was his face when he realized Auntie died. Katsuki walked ahead of Deku to lunch. He could usually judge how many people would notice them, so Deku could prepare for social situations, or so both of them could avoid people at all costs. They sat on the roof to eat normally. How'd you get a quirk, Deku? Katsuki whipped around as fuck whatever his name is. He had Deku pinned against the wall. Katsuki popped an explosion. Not gonna talk. Did you lie to us for pity points? Hey, asshat. Get the fuck away from him. Oh, sorry, Kaachan. Didn't mean to get in your way. You can put the nerd in his place. I won't take that from you. The guy put his hands up in mock surrender while he spoke. If you don't shut the dash. A hand grabbed his shoulder to pull him back. Kaachan, don't. Katsuki turned away from the idiot and checked Deku for any kind of mark. He didn't remember the guy's name, of course. He didn't remember his quirk. Yeah, Kaachan, don't. Be as weak as Deku. Katsuki blacked out. He doesn't remember what happened. All he remembered was that idiot talking shit and him screaming. Deku had a black eye forming. The idiot's friends joined the fight. The 5 of them are sitting in the principal's office. I didn't expect this kind of behavior from you, Katsuki. What do you have to say for yourself? Katsuki glared at Mom. That idiot shouldn't have said shit to Deku or me. What? If another student is bullying my son and his best friend, then you better do something about it. Yes, ma'am. We will handle this. We think it's best if the 5 of you all go home. We'll contact parents once a final decision is made. Katsuki put Deku's ice pack back on his eye. He looked on the verge of tears. Katsuki pulls Deku into the empty hall until one of his guardians shows up. He can cry without anyone watching. Mom has more words to say to the rest of them anyway. Deku buries his face into Katsuki's shoulder. Katsuki cards his fingers through Deku's hair while he cries. His choked sobs echo in the empty hall. After about 10 minutes, Deku curls into his chest. This is the closest Deku gets to touching people. It's okay. I'm sorry I got you dragged into a fight with some damn idiot. I'm sorry I fucking sucker punched him instead of letting it go. I'm sorry your dad is gonna have a heart attack over the shiner forming on your eye. Stop. Stop apologizing. I jumped in to fight when more people joined. I didn't even notice them before. The bruise is because I didn't dodge well enough. It's not your fault. It's fine. It's not fine. I'll take the brunt of the force. No, I'm what got us into this. I should have just responded to his question and things would be okay. Yeah, right. What are you gonna tell him? A fucking psychotic potato-faced villain forced a quirk into you like some kind of steroid baby? Or were you gonna say stress made it manifest suddenly? Deku got really quiet. And not the pouty, stop being right face. He has a nightmares on repeat in my brain face. He looked as sick as Katsuki felt when he thought of the sludge villain. Deku. Fuck. I don't know what I said, but I didn't mean it. It's okay. That's over. You're not there and he's not here. You will be fine. Deku stared at Katsuki like looking through a cloudy camera lens. He was unfocused and vacant. He didn't regain much awareness until Eraserhead walked over. Your dad is here. I guess it's time for you to head out. Deku nodded along, although he didn't appear to be all there. He looked around like he suddenly wasn't aware of where he was. Is he okay? Can you get brain trauma from a sucker punch to the eye? I don't think so. I'll check on him back at the station. I'll send you an update. In the meantime, get those scratches cleaned. You look like you fought an alley cat. Yeah, whatever. Izuku walked to the car, dazed. He felt it happen after he got caught up in a certain memory. What was he thinking about? He couldn't remember. Kaachan was with him. Eraserhead can't drive. Who is driving this car? Why doesn't it feel like the car is moving? Why doesn't his body feel like it's moving? Why doesn't his body feel? Something must have hit Izuku too hard. Logically, this is a worse concussion or something, right? Why does Eraserhead's voice sound so far away but also right next to him? What is going on anymore? Izuku, can you hear me? Do you know how old you are? Izuku. Right, that's him. Eraserhead is talking to him. His name is not Deku, that is a nickname. He wants to know his age. I'm 12, I think. I made myself a candle to blow out. It was a trick candle so I could spend more time on it. Why? That answer didn't satisfy him. Why was Eraserhead mad at him? Why was he in a car with him? He did something, right? Oh, he's wearing a Gakurin. He's picking him up from school. Why doesn't this body feel like it should be this big? Izuku took off his jacket. Why didn't he look 12? That's how old he is, right? No, he's not. Eraserhead looked too worried and Izuku looked too large to be 12. Izuku did his best to remain calm as he tried to figure out why his body felt so fuzzy, why his head wouldn't clear, why he didn't know what was going on, and why he had trouble remembering who he is. Fuck, he can't remain calm. Think logically, Izuku. Someone your size in that uniform should be a teenager. Based on the leaves. On the ground outside, it's autumn. You're either 14 or 15. You don't know what year it is. Eraserhead isn't driving because he can't for some reason. You don't know who's driving you and the car doesn't feel like it's moving but the trees moving means it is, Izuku thought to himself. After a scrounging of the brain and a memory of a 2 a.m. page on panic attacks, Izuku took a few deep breaths to calm down. It did nothing to relieve the fuzzy feeling, but focusing on something else made it better. Izuku walked into the station, confused about when they'd gotten there and why his hand was cold. Tsukachi greeted them from his desk. That drive was almost nothing. I don't remember any of it. Izuku remembered nothing from the drive though he felt Eraserhead's worry coming off in waves. Something the matter? How's your eye feel? Cold. Painful, why? Just checking. How old are you? 15, Eraserhead, do you have short-term memory loss? I know that's a symptom of depression. I read about it online. If you experience suicidal thoughts, maybe you should go see a specialist. Kid, I should be telling you that. I don't want to die. Did I say something that makes you think that? No, you need to see a specialist. Of the two of us, you're at more of a risk. Izuku thought about the fresh scars on his arms. The ones on his stomach. The word on his thigh. I think I'm okay, for now. The car ride from your school was 20 minutes because of traffic. And it felt like nothing at all to you? Nothing. No time passage. I think I felt fuzzy in there but it's hard to remember. I'm setting up an appointment. You need therapy. Can I not? I don't want to talk to a new person. And I don't want to waste your money. Especially after you were so nice to get me a phone. Izuku shouldn't be talking back to his elders. He would catch hell for doing this to Sensei or Tomura. Eraserhead sighed. Maybe you wouldn't be too mad. Eraserhead didn't get mad at him often. Okay. Here's what we'll do. I will bring you to a mental hospital in the area. I will interview patients and nurses and doctors and see what it's like and report back to you. Then we can both decide if we want to try therapy. Does that sound like a plan? Izuku thought about it. Honestly, that did sound good. If Izuku thought the treatment wasn't a good idea afterward, they would drop it. If he thought he might be better if he tried it, then no harm in trying. Eraserhead even said he might try therapy, so it's a win for both of them. Yes, I would like to go ahead with the plan. When will we do this? Sunday. We'll spend most of the day there. I'll have to inform several people of my day off, but it should be fine. If anyone is expecting you to hang out, inform them you can't. The only people I like hanging out with would encourage me to do this, is making me go through with this, and a wanted criminal not even aware of mental health. Eraserhead gives him a look and Izuku looks down so he doesn't succumb to the urge to apologize for an hour straight. If his black eye looks too bad, should they reschedule when they visit? Would the bruise worry the patients? Would that interfere with their recovery? Tell me the problem. If my black eye is bad enough, will the patients at the hospital worry too much and interfere with the recovery process? I think it will have mostly faded by then. You should be okay. Okay. Izuku explained to Tsukachi why he was back early. Apparently, he had joked about Izuku getting in trouble for fighting, back when he offered to help lure Toga out. Sansa brought forth a lunch for Izuku while he talked. Sansa is a cat. Izuku scratched under Sansa's chin. He liked it. Tsukachi had to go take a call and that's when Izuku decided to eat. Later, Izuku sent a picture of his very dark bruise to Kaachan. It was about 9:14 so he didn't expect Kaachan to be up. Kaachan went to bed at 8. Kaachan responded to the text with a picture of multiple band-aids covering parts of his face. Izuku sent the bruise picture to Toga as well. She texted him immediately. Did you win? Sort of. Was there any blood? On Kaachan. I did get to chokehold someone. Awesome. You're doing amazing. Thanks, Himiko. Good night. Good night, Izuku. Izuku spun in the swivel seat while he waited for Eraserhead to arrive. It's Sunday morning and he promised he wouldn't patrol the night before. He should be here by now. The hospital opens in an hour. Is he here yet? Midoriya, that is not how you sit in a chair. Only Eraserhead will stop me. Izuku sat with one leg draped over an arm. The other leg he used to spin the chair. Both hands were focused on the bowl of soba in his hands. He didn't eat much if he did eat, so this was mostly just in case he got hungry. Also, it kept his hands warm and busy. Kamui Woods talked with an officer by the desk. He glanced at Izuku a few times during the conversation but remained focused on his assignment. Finally, he just asked why Izuku is there. Izuku adjusted so both of his legs were draped over the arm of the swivel chair. Kamui looked aghast. Several officers looked somewhere between exasperated and amused. Tsukachi fell under exasperated. Is he here yet? Asking continuously will not make him appear. If he doesn't show up in the next 15 minutes, I'm canceling. Izuku clicks a timer on the desk in front of him. He shifts in his seat again, positioning a leg in between the back and arm of the chair. The other leg is crossed over the other one. Izuku eats a bite of his soba while making eye contact with Tsukachi. Before Midoriya can figure out how to kill us with his eyes alone, someone, please contact Eraserhead. Kamui Woods, if everything has been worked out you may go. Kamui leaves and Izuku is left with no entertainment. He's gotten so used to just seeing the different officers that it's completely fine when they're around. He still asks for someone to stand guard outside of the shower room, but he has more options for who he will entrust the job to. Izuku faces forward in his chair with both legs curled to his chest. He uses the edge of the desk to spin while he waits. Shoda arrives at the station. He has a bad feeling when he enters. Izuku stares daggers at him as he walks by the front desk. He clicks stop on the timer. 13.5 minutes. You almost got this trip cancelled, sir. Shoda doesn't think he's ever heard someone put that much malice into the word sir. He's hoping nothing happened before he arrived. Are you ready to go? Have been for 13.5 minutes, sir. Which you would know, if you were here, 13.5 minutes ago. 𝐲𝗧 rolls his eyes. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 would never be easy to handle. Just because he stopped to handle some matters with Yamada and ended up a little later than he wanted. Do you have a water bottle? We'll be there for most of the day. I would rather drink my blood than bring a water bottle. You aren't ready then. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 rolls his eyes and huffs as he pulls a water bottle from the cooler in the corner. He stands by the door as he waits for 𝐲𝗧's next question or concern. We still have time until the hospital opens its doors to visitors. I see you ate soba for breakfast. How about we walk around for a bit? Anything to just do something. Don't make me talk to people. I won't. We'll avoid people until we arrive at the hospital. Wait. You do have a coat, right? No. Why would I have a coat? Those are too heavy. You can't go into 5 degrees, early December weather, without at least a sweater. I don't have one. We'll buy you one. Let's go. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 follows 𝐲𝗧 to the nearest clothes store. 𝐲𝗧 tells him he can pick out his own jacket, coat, or sweater. The only requirement being it keeps him warm. 𝐲𝗧 is looking through boys' sweaters for 𝐬𝐡𝐚 as well. An aviator's jacket catches his eye. It would be a bit big on him. It reminds him of Shirakumo. 𝐲𝗧 swallows back tears. 𝐲𝗧 stiffens as 2 small arms hesitantly wrap around his waist. He looks down to see 𝐬𝐡𝐚 hugging him. He's not normally physical with people. Kid? You looked sad. Hugs are supposed to help people feel better. Thanks. Did you find a sweater? I found a denim jacket. Is that okay? Those are pretty heavy, are you sure? It's a rougher fabric. I don't like heavy, soft fabrics. Try it on. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 pulls the jacket on. Of course, the sleeves are a bit long and the torso is longer than his, but it doesn't squeeze him when it's buttoned. Also, he does look good in it. 𝐲𝗧 is debating allowing him to shop with Yamada. He might like some of the clothes he wears. After paying for the jacket, they set out on their original plan. They spent another 15 minutes in the store, so they had half an hour to kill. We need some ground rules. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 heaves a sigh. You can't use your quirk in there to make anything besides your comfort plushies. You can't run off into whatever room you think is safest. You have to tell me if you start getting uncomfortable, so I can remove you from the situation. Is that all clear? 𝐬𝐡𝐚 nods and creates a small dagger out of thread. He pokes a hole in his jacket. 𝐲𝗧 cancels his quirk. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 panics before realizing who it was and glaring at him. They walk around a park for a bit. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 has a somewhat distant look on his face. He stops in front of a tree. There's a small engraving low on the tree. Deku plus Kaachan forever. 𝐲𝗧 crouches down to see the engraving better. It's old. The handiwork was done by them at 4 or 5. How a child that young got a knife escapes him. Kaachan wrote this when we were 4. He knew how to read pretty well then. He copied over what he saw on other trees from older kids. He promised we would be friends forever. Do you have a friend like that? Unfortunately, 𝐲𝗧 did have a friend like that. Someone who swore they would be friends forever. Forever wasn't as long as they would have hoped. Shirakumo is gone now. Oh. I'm sorry. You lost them. Yeah. Back in high school. This was the first time he really talked about Shirakumo after his death, and of course, it was with the literal child that refused to talk with anyone else most days. The literal child who went through worse than losing a best friend. A literal child who is younger than when they were. The literal child is a bit too much like Shirakumo. Even if he isn't open, he wears his heart on his sleeve. He's always trying to help other people before he helps himself. He sees through 𝐲𝗧 like he's glass. What was their name? Your friend, I mean. 𝐲𝗧 releases a heavy sigh. Shirakumo. 𝐶𝐬𝐭 𝐖𝐡𝐚𝐭 𝐍𝐴 sounds nice. They spend the rest of their walk in the park in silence. Izuku likes this friend of Eraserhead. His name is nice. 𝐶𝐬 means white and 𝐀𝐦 means cloud. White cloud. It's nice to think about. A white cloud. It's like an angel to Kuroji's devil. Kurojiri. The unofficial babysitter of Tomura, who was the only one there with a shred of kindness. He made food for him sometimes and checked on him if he got a scrape or something. Kuro means black or dark and giri means mist. Dark mist or black mist. The goth version of Shirakumo's name. If Kurojiri was nice, then Shirakumo must be an angel. Wait. Shirakumo is dead. It's very clear at this point. Kurojiri doesn't have a face, in fact, he looks like one of the Nomu with higher intelligence. Oh no. Could this friend of Eraserhead's be Kurojiri's base? Is his friend a Nomu? Izuku tried to quiet his panic so Eraserhead didn't catch on. Eraser. Shirakumo. What was his quirk? He could manipulate clouds, why? Could you describe it better? How likely was he to coat his body in clouds? Could he move things with them? He had a habit of carrying children on his clouds and he hid himself or sushi inside his clouds. Is something wrong? No, just curious. His quirk sounds really cool. And if you combined it with the right quirk you would get Kurojiri. This means that Eraserhead's best friend is now a Nomu caring for a homicidal teenager with anger issues and a psychotic potato grandpa. This is not where most people see themselves in 10 years. Izuku tried to focus on the fact they were the only people in the hospital's waiting room. It was decently early, no one would be here for a while. Are you here to visit someone? Izuku froze as a nurse or a receptionist walked up to them. Eraserhead responded before Izuku could remember to breathe. We're here to ask a few questions about the treatment here. Do you have a few minutes? Oh, let me get someone else. I'll be right back. Izuku scans the lobby. Stupid plastic chairs waiting for someone to fill them. Beeping in the distance. A rolling bed echoed down the hall. Are we seriously going to disturb these people? Some of them may be grateful to have visitors. There are those without anyone to support them. Izuku hated that thought. No one there to support you. No one there to help you. No one there at all. The thought made him shiver. He was back there with Sensei and Tomura. Even with two other people and Kurojiri, he always felt alone. Even with multiple bodies, it never felt like there was someone there. They hurt him too much. They weren't nice people. They made him feel even more alone than he would have been alone. Izuku grabs onto Eraserhead. He didn't want to be alone. Eraserhead is still next to him. He's not alone. Why aren't there more people here? Where is everybody? Izuku, breathe, alright? I need you to breathe. Can you do that? Can you breathe? Izuku's chest shudders as he breathes in. It's painful to breathe. It's gonna be okay. You're experiencing a panic attack. There's nothing to worry about. Who? It hurts. I know. That's normal. You're okay. This will pass. The pain will go away. You're gonna be okay. Remember to breathe. All you have to do is breathe. Izuku gulps down another breath of air. Tears sting his eyes. The denim lays stiff on his arms. A pain throbs in his skull. How do you feel? Izuku sniffles so snot doesn't run down his face. My head hurts. I feel less worried. You aren't gonna leave, right? Izuku sounded too hopeful. Eraserhead has hero work and students to teach. He has to leave at some point. As long as he always returns though, that would be preferable. I can't promise I won't leave. I have a history of disappearing on people. I'll try my best to return to you. I won't leave you alone for too long. I promise. 𝐬𝐡𝐚𝐭 hides his face in Eraserhead's stomach. Even if the lobby is empty, a nurse could appear and he doesn't like people to see him cry. If Sensei caught him crying, he would punish him for being weak. Tomura would mock him. Kurogiri handed him a tissue once when the tear flow got bad. "Excuse me, what did you want to know about our treatment?" A doctor is answering their questions. How do you handle anxiety, especially in children? How do you handle other mental illnesses? We start with psychotherapy, and if the patient's guardian approves, we dispense medication. We do this with all of our patients. It's not just anxiety. That psychotherapy is helpful for depression, eating disorders, suicidal behaviors, conduct disorder, etc. Can you explain how psychotherapy would work for someone who isn't currently admitted to a hospital? Therapy with a psychologist will be mostly based around talking about yourself for the first visit. Like a get-to-know-you questionnaire. Following that, the psychologist will ask about problems in your home life or school life. Any physical symptoms that can't be explained. These are all common symptoms that your psychologist would have to be made aware of. You'll meet in person, you will have to discuss how frequent visits are with your psychologist and how long visits will go on for. Is it safe? 𝐬𝐡𝐚 doesn't like talking to people, but he's honestly curious and he can't telepathically communicate with Eraserhead about this. There is no danger with your psychologist. If you ever feel you are in danger around them, that has to be reported immediately. Your therapist is there to make you feel comfortable so they can help you. The doctor has been so kind and earnest, but any doctor could just be in here. How many doctors here worked for Sensei? He has his personal doctor, but how many could he pay off? How many would sell him out? How many would kill him for him? Do you think we could ask some patients about their stay here? About how your treatment has been helping them so far? I suppose you could. If they'd rather not speak to you, don't pester them. Do you want me to show you around? I think we'll be okay. Thank you, sir. 𝐬𝐡𝐚's face still stings from crying and it probably looks blotchy and stuff, but he feels like he's suffocating if he keeps his face in Eraserhead's clothes for too long. Was that terrible? Yes, humans are the worst. 𝐬𝐡𝐚. I know. Can we go pester some crazies like us now? Yeah, come on. Ray wasn't expecting visitors until noon. She wasn't expecting a doctor until 10. It was only 8:30 a.m. It wasn't time for anyone to be here. Visiting hours started only half an hour ago. A knock at the door is what started this. How did she have visitors? She was curious to know who would be visiting her at this hour of the morning. Come in. The door opens and two sets of footsteps enter. Ray turns away from the window. In front of her is a young boy, about her boy's age, and an older man. Likely his father based on the way he clings to him. Can I help you? The boy comes forward. Hi. I'm 𝐬𝐡𝐚 and I. We wanted, how is hospital life? I mean, what's it like getting treated here? Ray pats the bed beside her. Come sit down. You look a bit tired. He's had to exist near more strangers than he's used to. The boy, 𝐬𝐡𝐚, inches toward Ray but doesn't sit down. Ray gives him her best, relaxed smile. You wanted to know about my treatment here, why is that? I want to know. If it would help me or if it would be a waste of time. Ray nods. She understands that. Early on it felt like the treatment wasn't helping. She could see how one might think treatment wouldn't help them. Can I tell you a story? 𝐬𝐡𝐚 nods. Many years ago I entered marriage not out of love. I thought things would be okay. Things were okay for the first few years. My eldest developed a quirk that hurts his body. My husband tried to stop him from using it, but the whole reason he had been born, at least in his eyes, was to become a strong hero. In your husband's eyes? Yes. My eldest wouldn't listen to anyone's attempts to stop him. We had 4 children in total. My husband ignored anyone he deemed unworthy of his cause. I did my best to raise them and help them, but it wasn't enough. My eldest died from overusing his quirk. Not long after. I couldn't handle it. I was making tea and my youngest came downstairs. I burned him with the water. I tried to ice the burn. I was sent here after that night. Ray sadly looked at the boy next to her. He'd moved closer while she talked. You're about my youngest's age. I'm sorry you went through all that. Thank you. The doctors here are kind and patient, and in the first few years, it seemed the treatment wasn't helping. I felt like I got worse sometimes. Now, I feel I would be okay to see all of my children, but the only one who visits me is my daughter. I understand if the other two never want to see me after the pain I caused them. But 𝐓𝐲𝐬 said Natsuo does want to visit. I may see him soon. Ray freezes and then relaxes. Izuku is hugging her. I guess I said too much. I think treatment would be good for you, but you don't have to listen to the ramblings of a crazy woman. I think you're a kind woman, not crazy. Ray reciprocates the hug. Izuku stiffens like a corpse. Ray lets go and he almost jumps away. Izuku doesn't look at her as he fiddles with a plush. How had she not noticed that? Sorry. I shouldn't have hugged you. Most people hug back. I should have remembered. It's my fault, I should have asked to hug you back. I need to ask people before hugging them. I'm sorry. Thank you for the hug. I don't get them often. Izuku nods and passes over the plush in his hands. It's one of Ray. You made me into a plush? Yeah. What does your youngest look like? I haven't seen him in years. He has red and white hair, it's split down the middle. He has my looks on his right side. His father's on the left. His left eye is blue. I'm not sure what he looks like now, but 𝐓𝐲𝐬 has alluded to a scar on his face. Izuku hands over a plush of him. Thank you. I hate to ask this of you, but could you maybe visit more? You don't have to, but I like the company. I'll think about it. Ray waves at him as he exits the room. His father thanks her for her time. The 𝐬𝐡𝐻 plush in her hands smiles up at her. Katsuki glares at the kids in front of him. It's like this asshole doesn't know how to quit. That's the only respectable thing about him. He's still a coward for bringing two guys with him. So, why the hell aren't you asking Deku? Did you know he had a quirk, or are you trying to figure it out by hanging out with him? What I'm trying to do is not punch your ugly ass mug. Whoa. Kaachan, calm down. We're asking a simple question here. How'd quirkless Deku get a quirk? The way they said Deku made it sound more like the insult it was. It still is an insult, but he doesn't hate it. Does he? Katsuki would have to ask him later. He's been missing for the last 6 years and you're seriously asking that? Why don't you use your brains? Unless that's something you can't do in every situation. Quirks don't develop after 4. Not even stress can do that. Well, not the kind of stress he's been through. Honestly, all that stress he's had to deal with probably wasn't that big a deal. He's just faking. Katsuki dug his fingers into his palms. He has to remind himself to not fight 3 guys at once, even if one of them is the equivalent of a stick and the other 2 barely know how to throw a punch. If you ever say that to his face, I will personally make your lives a living hell. I will make it so you actually believe what he went through is just a walk in the park. I will make it so your mothers never figure out what happened to you. Do you understand? The idiots in front of him laugh. That's real edgy. You aren't intimidating, you've gotten weak. You're as weak as Deku. You can't do anything to scare us. If not for Katsuki's phone buzzing in his pocket, he might have punched them. Yeah. Kaachan. I talked to people. And I think therapy might be an okay idea. Great job. I'm talking with people too. Is something wrong? No, I think I'll stay out later. Kaachan, you're scaring me. Who is with you? Just some friends. Kaachan. I'm your only friend. I know, I'll be home later, I swear. Katsuki glares at the extras. Make them think he's talking to mom. Don't ask him who he's talking to. Is it those guys from school? Kaachan, are you in danger? Yeah, I heard you. Fine, I'm on my way home. Should I ask Dad to send a car? Where are you? The park is close enough, I can walk. Katsuki has seen a trick like this done online with the police disguised as pizza delivery. I'm on my way. No. I'll come home, you don't need to come here. Katsuki hangs up. The idiots are laughing at him. You're in trouble with your mom. Kaachan, you really can't do anything right. Ha ha. Katsuki stomps away. These extras used to worship him, what the hell happened? Is it because he stayed friends with Deku? Is it because he pushed everyone away in those 6 years? Is it because they realized he has a rotten personality? At least the phone trick worked on those extras. They aren't following him. That's one good thing. Kaachan. Katsuki plants his feet so he doesn't get knocked over. Deku barrels into him. Deku frets over him. Katsuki allows Deku to look over him for wounds. He'll be more relaxed when he realized there are no injuries. You're okay. What happened? Just those extras refusing to leave me alone. Don't worry too much, they're just annoying. I got kind of mouthy and probably would have deserved a punch in the mouth. Deku stares at him, trying to will something else out. Katsuki would rather not admit he was scared. So, therapy? That's happening or? I'm still reluctant to go ahead with it, but I do want to try it out. See if it could help me. I'm nervous about this whole thing. If you don't want to go in alone, I'm sure you could reason a person in there. I or Eraser would gladly do this with you. It's not that. I don't like talking to strangers. Not even a single get-to-know-you session is enough. What am I supposed to do? You meet them before your first session. Try talking about the less taxing issues first and move on from there in later sessions. That could work. Kaachan? Yeah. Thanks. No problem. Himiko collects enough blood to keep her going for the next month. She promised she would take a non-homicidal approach to live life how she wants to. Those past murders weren't her intention, she just needed blood. Thanks for your blood, Ms. I appreciate it. Himiko skips away while the woman panics and calls for help. She even left major arteries alone. How ungrateful. Himiko ducks into a nearby bar. She looks too young to be in here, so they won't look for her here. If only she had some blood of someone much older. That woman's blood is decent. She appears to be 19 though. Himiko isn't here to drink, just to hide. She darts into the bathroom. She strips and takes a sip of blood. A look in the mirror shows her new appearance. The woman is young-looking but still very adult. She has naturally long eyelashes and green eyes. Green like Izuku's. That makes Himiko very happy. Her hair is now curled and brown. Himiko ties the hair up into a bun. She sticks a pair of chopsticks through the bun. Her disguise comes with a nice, midnight blue, A-line, sleeveless, halter dress. Himiko twirls in her dress and sachets back into the main area of the bar. She sits at the bar counter. She might as well get a drink if she's gonna be here. Hey, what are you doing here alone? Himiko turns to look at her new friend. He's older, maybe as old as her parents. He's got a bit of a smoker's voice. Just waiting. Are you here alone? Nah, I'm here with you, Mississippi. Okay. Himiko plays with the edge of her dress. She's a little taller than normal. The woman's blood she drank, that woman is taller than her mom. She's about 174 centimeters. Can I buy you a drink? You would do that? Thanks. I want something pomegranate flavored, I can't have alcohol. You're younger than I thought. I'm almost 19. Himiko smiles at him. The guy looks a bit unnerved. Himiko looks around the bar instead. She freaked him out. There's a card game going on in the corner. A few people are dancing. An ugly guy is watching her new friend from his spot on the wall. Maybe they're friends. Or maybe he wants him dead. Himiko needs to step away before she's involved in that. Thanks for the drink. Himiko sips it and immediately wants to spit it back out. That's a quirk suppressant she just tasted. Oh, no. I've gotta go to the bathroom, I'll be right back. Himiko can already feel her quirk starting to wear off. She needs to get to her clothes and she needs to find a new place to hide. Hold up there. We ain't done talking. Himiko reaches for the door and is slammed against the wall. She kicks at the guy but he holds her down completely. You're a shapeshifter of sorts. You are younger than I thought. I thought you were a bit naive for a woman but you're just a child. Can you let me go now, sir? I'd like to get dressed. Himiko puts as much venom into her sir as she can muster. Which is quite a bit of venom. You don't need to get dressed yet. We're taking our time. Himiko wiggles as much as she can. She's pissing this guy off. Himiko gasps for air as his hand closes around her throat. Stop fucking moving. I don't want to get too rough with you cause you've got such pretty skin. Just make things a little easier on me. Himiko kicks as her vision goes dark. Overwhelming heat surrounds her. There's screaming and someone hands her a shirt. Himiko gratefully pulls it on and does her best to slip inside the bathroom. Someone screams something about fire. After getting dressed and checking that she has a knife, Himiko exits the bathroom. The ugly guy who was against the wall is waiting for her. Are you hurt? Himiko rubs her neck. It's still sore. I'm okay. Thanks for your help. Yeah, alright. I gotta go, keep that knife on you at all times. I'm Toga Himiko. What's your name, stranger? I can't keep calling you the ugly guy. I go by 𝗬𝗲𝗄𝐵. Hope I catch you around, Toga Himiko. And with that and a wave, he's gone. Himiko clutches the knife in her hand and exits the bar. Aizawa. You can't not introduce me to your problem children. Yamada says he's already met one. Kayama, he hasn't met him. Also, I only have one problem child, Izuku. He said there are 2 kids you constantly have to go see at the station. The other one is his best friend. He isn't my problem child. He's barely a problem. Shota's phone rings on the table beside him. Tsukachi's number flashes on the screen. If I say I'm on my way, can I not know any details until I arrive? Bakugo has some questions for you. Great. Shota glares as Kayama gets excited. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Shota hangs up and walks out of the room. Kayama trails behind. What? I could drive you. I hate your car. Yamada could drive you. I swear. He's busy. Yamada. You're driving us to the police station. Yamada runs around the corner holding his keys. He's got a lopsided smile on his face. Shota grumbles the entire drive there. Ah, is that him? He's so cute. Shota pushes past Kayama as she fawns over Izuku. Izuku is spinning in a swivel chair. Midnight and present mic again. Hi. Hey little guy. Good to see ya. Drive Aizawa up a wall yet? Eraserhead is driving himself up a wall. I'm just here to encourage the wall driving. He's hilarious. And cheeky, where's Bakugo? On the floor, numbnuts. Shota looks down at him. Bakugo has a journal open. Several questions are written on a page. Alright, ask your questions. You work at UA, right? Yes. All 3 of us do. Pipe down Yamada. First, what are we doing for the entrance exam? Are we fighting you guys or something else? Robots, actually. That's unfair to anyone who has a more organic-based quirk. Or something like erasers. You should fix that. Kayama gives Shota a look. He ignores her. What can we bring with us to the exam? Is there a limit? Anything you can carry. The only limit would be something illegal. There goes the triple-edged blade I wanted to bring. Izuku snorts. Shota sighs. Yamada looks a bit concerned. Kayama laughs. His sense of humor is like yours. Both of them are like this. No wonder Aizawa likes these two so much. Next question, can we help other examinees? You can, but you won't be in the same area as someone else from your middle school. Damn it. Last one for you and Tsukachi. Kayama wanders over to Sansa. She might be flirting with him. How come he still doesn't have a proper home? And if you say he doesn't like any of the adults, that ain't true. He likes you. He calls both of you dad. So why doesn't he have a home? Shota heaves a sigh. If you're expecting me to take him in, I can't. I have too much going on as it is. If you're expecting Tsukachi to, he's busy as well. We don't really have the time to care for him like that. You already do it. You drop whatever you're doing to come see what's up with him. You're patient and caring toward him. You help him with everything you can help him with. He trusts you. Honestly, you already got the whole parenting thing down. All that's left is bringing him to where you live and making sure he eats at least one meal a day. Shota has to admit he's right. He's already a pseudo-father to Izuku and he might as well make it official. Aizawa can't cook. We would permanently ban him from a kitchen if we could. It's bad enough his stove has never been used by him, but he never has anyone over to use it. I prefer it that way. People are annoying. I just want to know where you live, man. No. Izuku. Izuku throws a paperweight at him and Shota catches it out of habit. You startled me. Sorry. I need to ask you something. Alone? Would you prefer to be alone for this conversation? Yeah, too many people are here now. I don't like it. Shota gestures for him to come on. They go to the break room. How would you feel about living in an apartment? But I like it here. I don't want to live with some stranger. I don't want to accidentally offend someone because I don't like talking to new people. It won't be a stranger. I was thinking. You could live with me. Shota waits for a response. Izuku is silent. He doesn't normally go completely silent when he's thinking, he'll mutter words too. I wouldn't hate it. Am I going to live with you? That is the plan. I get routine change is scary and annoying, so I'll bring you by my apartment and you can get used to it before you have to sleep there. I'll even introduce you to my neighbors. Actually, I would rather lose a fight to a kitten than talk to your neighbors. That's fair. I don't talk to them much. Izuku glances at the door and then back at Shota. Can I return to my aimless spinning? Go ahead. Izuku runs back to his chair. Shota re-enters the main area with his friends and Bakugo. Problem solved. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? You need a shower. Thanks for the reminder. I had no idea with my 22-hour days and my 2-hour naps, I would need a shower. You're a lifesaver. You look fucking homeless and like a drug addict. Shota shakes his head. Maybe he does have 2 problem children. My grades are fine, I haven't gotten into another fight since the last one, I clean up after my classmates, and I don't interrupt classes. Why am I being called down here? Well, you're correct, your grades are fine, no physical or verbal altercations have been reported, and you are quite an outstanding student overall. The issue several of your teachers have noticed, especially these past 3 years, is you don't socialize with your peers. What? You aren't hanging out with friends, you're silent during lunch if you are in the cafeteria, you ignore people in the halls, and you refuse to participate in optional group work. We're worried about your social-emotional health. Katsuki blinks in utter confusion again. Socializing is an important part of development. Your mental health may suffer without human connection. Some of your classmates have noticed you've grown distant and standoffish over the years. They're worried about you. We want to help. I don't need the help. We understand how hard it may be to connect with peers, especially after losing socializing skills you previously had and not communicating with anyone for years. That's why our counselor recommended you join this support group. This way you can relearn how to talk with and get along with your same-aged peers. Katsuki stares at the paper in the principal's hand. No. I'm not doing this. Give it a try. This will be beneficial for your mental and physical health. You can build better bonds with your family this way too. I don't need to learn how to socialize. If my friends aren't cool with the way I am now, then they ain't fucking worth being friends with. Simple as that. I'm glad you have such strong opinions and your sense of self and self-worth don't seem to be damaged, but please reconsider. You could benefit from this. I have the only friend I need. I don't want to go in there pretending to care about learning to socialize, and then leaving and never using any of the skills I learned. I have already tried to politely decline, so let me say it my way. I don't want your fucking support group, so get that shit out of my face and fucking leave me the fuck alone. Katsuki storms out of there, leaving the principal aghast. He might ruin his record and get detention for swearing at the principal, but whatever. Everything okay, Kaachan? It's fine. Can we go now? We still have class. You know what, let's just go home. Yeah, we'll go home. I don't want to be home right now. And you don't have an official home yet because you've yet to move in. How about we go to the train station? Watch the trains come through. Oh, and people watch. Sure. I'm honestly just like, fuck it, at this point. Deku grabs Katsuki's wrist and drags him to their lockers. They grab their outdoor shoes and the rest of their things. Katsuki grabs some snacks from the vending machine near the cafeteria. Katsuki sits on the edge of the platform, Deku jumping beside him. He's trying to see all of the people there. That lady has a frog quirk. The guy has electric powers. That girl has a telekinesis quirk. The nerd loves quirks. Kaachan, the train's leaving. Watch it go. The train moves slowly and starts picking up speed. It leaves them in the dust quickly. Deku sits down. He's holding a plush of the train. I want to go on a train one day. To get to UA, we'll need to go on a train. Yeah. That's awesome. I wish we could go on one now. Katsuki watches people pay for tickets. He could go see how much to anywhere would cost. I'll be right back, don't wander off. Katsuki walks up to the booth. He wishes he wasn't wearing his uniform. Well, he always has a tank top underneath. He can just take the jacket off. That way he blends in. Excuse me, how much for 2 tickets to Osaka? 21,000 yen, are you sure you got that kind of pocket change, kid? No, never mind. Thanks anyway. Katsuki slumps against a post close to Deku. He's making his train chug and choo-choo. Why did trains have to be so expensive? Why couldn't they just get on free because they're kids? Well, if they didn't pay they could get on free. Whoa! Don't go breaking the law, Katsuki. A train is rolling up now. Another 15 minutes, and it'll be gone. Deku really wants to go on a train. It's illegal to not pay. You don't have enough money for 1 ticket. This is dangerous and stupid. He'll be so happy. Deku, come on. Where are we going? On the train. We gotta do it at the last second though. Let's find a car. Okay. Deku follows him as they walk by the train. There's a dining car. They walk past it. Most cars are full of people. Katsuki chooses the one in the back. Izuku stares up at it. The train blows off its warning. Anyone not aboard isn't getting on and anyone on the tracks needs to clear off. Katsuki, this is a bad idea. Too late to turn back now. It's not too late. It is. The train moves forward slowly. Katsuki runs and jumps onto it. He turns around to see Deku keeping up with the train. Katsuki holds out his hand. The train is speeding up. Come on. Deku jumps and grabs his hand. Katsuki pulls him up. They sit on the floor of the back car. Deku looks downright terrified. What the hell was that? This is illegal. But this is so cool. We're on an actual train. We're gonna go to prison. This is the best Christmas present ever. Katsuki was never much of a smiler. He doesn't smile unless he won something awesome. Right now though, this was a time to smile. Deku's face went from panic and dread to excitement and joy in the span of half a minute. His joy smile is too cute, too perfect. Kaachan, we're gonna get in so much trouble and I love it. Did Katsuki just turn Deku into a delinquent? Or was this what he's always been like underneath the kind and soft surface? Probably a bit of both. We're in Osaka now. What should we do? What do you want to do? Explore. Even if we can't buy anything, I want to see what they have. We'll start with 𝐬𝐸 shopping arcade and then. Kaachan cuts off as Izuku runs toward the shopping arcade. Izuku's excited to go shopping for once. He's excited to be in public. This is new for him. They check out a bookstore first. The thing about 𝐬𝐸 shopping arcade is it's an underground mall strip. It has tons of stores packed into one. Bookstores, boutiques, and gift shops. Everything. Izuku likes to read and Kaachan likes to find excuses to ignore people and prove he's smarter than them. Books are a good way to get both of their wants. You like romance manga? Yeah. Why, did you find something? You hate romance. I hate the idea of dating someone. I don't hate romance. This is a well-written romance. Romance involving me wouldn't be. That's the issue. Okay. I found 𝐬𝐬. Do you want to read it? Oh, I've already read that one. Hold on. I hear the sunspot. I think you would like this. Oh, okay. Izuku knows Kaachan has money on him. Even if it wasn't enough for 2 train tickets, it should be enough for a book. Kaachan's opinions of mangas have never been wrong, but Izuku is more into action and adventure, not romance. Kaachan buys the manga for him. Izuku's going to read this because he doesn't have much else to do. Besides, it doesn't look too bad. Kaachan would never hand him something if he didn't think it wasn't safe for him to read. Clothing. We can try on so much. What's your dress size? Deku. Why would I know that? You don't know your dress size? I'm a 14, I think. Cool. You look good in purple. I am not wearing that. Lace is disgusting. Fair. How about this one? It's your size. I'll try it on. You should wear the blue one. Izuku picks up the dress. It's his size and the fabric isn't too soft. It could work. The two of them make their way to the changing room. Kaachan rocks the dress. It's a dark purple, T-length, long-sleeved, dress with a capelet. He twirls to show it off. Let me get a video of that twirl. Fine, but only if I can get a picture of you wearing yours. Fine. Izuku takes a few photos to go along with the video. Izuku's dress is a midi-length, peacock blue, and cold shoulder sleeves, with a floral appliqué bodice. The skirt naturally pleats. Izuku picks up the skirt gently and bows. I'm a princess. Aha. Am I a pretty princess? You're pretty fucking stupid is what you are. I expected you to say annoying first. Nah, you're the only human that doesn't aggravate me to no end. Izuku feels his heart swell. Kaachan just complimented him. Kaachan doesn't do that with anyone. 𝐬𝐡𝐢𝐬 must be special. Just like Sensei said. Nothing like Sensei. This is different. Kaachan actually cares about him and he wants 𝐬𝐡𝐢 to be here with him. And he wants to hear 𝐬𝐡𝐢's thoughts and ramblings at 4 in the morning when neither of them can sleep. And he would have moved hell on earth to find 𝐬𝐡𝐢 himself. How long until he doesn't want you anymore? Kaachan made a promise. He said they would be friends forever. That isn't going to break. He's already left you before. Once he realizes you aren't anything special just because you finally have a quirk, he's gone. No. Kaachan wouldn't leave him. He wouldn't. Kaachan is sticking by his promise and he doesn't care that 𝐬𝐡𝐢 used to be quirkless anymore. Sure, Deku. Just remember what your name means. Hey, Deku. Yeah. Do you hate that nickname? What? Deku, do you hate being called Deku? Oh, no. I don't hate it. Why not? Because it comes from someone who loves me. You're too damn cheesy. You are the one who reads and cries over romance manga. Only because it gets too soft for me to take. Would you break down in tears if your mother hugged you? I don't know. It's not like we'll ever find out. Kaachan. Sorry. 𝐬𝐡𝐢's lip wobbled and his head stung. His eyes started watering. Deku, don't cry. It's fine. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 let loose his Midoriya tears, soaking the ground around them. There. Kaachan is so emotionally stunted that 𝐬𝐡𝐢 has to cry for both of them. Unfortunately, 𝐬𝐡𝐢 doesn't like to cry in front of others. Can we go try on some sweaters I saw? 𝐬𝐡𝐢 sniffles. Deku, I'm not wearing argyle. But, Kaachan. You would look good in it. I look good in everything. I'm not wearing argyle. Please. It won't be hideous colors like mine. Fine. No yellow. No yellow. Kaachan's sweater is a black, red, and purple, argyle, long-sleeved, turtleneck. It fits him nicely. He's mad about how soft it is. 𝐬𝐡𝐢's sweater is a green, magenta, and black plaid, long-sleeved, oversized, crew neck. It covers his hands and the hemline hangs down to his mid-thigh. I'm a demon. I have no handsies. Quiver before me and I shall spare you. I'm 𝗵-. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 cuts off as he starts coughing. The evil demon is defeated by a cough. Katsuki quivers in fear of catching a cold. You are mean. You're too kind to be a demon. You would give someone back their soul if they sold it to you. That's not fair. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 has a pouty, stop being right face. Kaachan boops him. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 scrunches his face in response. No touchy, 𝐬𝐡𝐢 bats Kaachan's hand away. Come on, there's more stuff we need to try on, and then we can con someone into buying us food. Okay. What can I help you with? The voice on the phone broke into static a few times. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Is this the guardian of Midoriya 𝐬𝐡𝐢? Shota starts a pot of coffee. Yes, I'm Aizawa. What's the problem? Midoriya cut classes today. He's probably on the roof. He left the building a few hours ago. We were just made aware of this via security cameras. Shota grabs a handful of espresso shots. Thank you for informing me. I will handle this. Have a nice day. You too, sir. Shota hangs up the phone and grabs his coffee on the way out of the building. Shota texts Tsukachi to tell him if he sees 𝐬𝐡𝐢. I found him. He's in Osaka. Umeda Shopping Arcade. Yamada sets up GPS to the shopping arcade. So, should I get there as fast as possible or drive normally? Yamada, obey traffic laws. Yamada turns up his music and starts to sing as he drives. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 messes up his hair again. To achieve conning someone you must look the part. Of course, that's easier said than done considering they don't have any actual props or costumes to use. But they can make this work. Kaachan is trying to use the contour he carries with him to look younger. He's already pretty young looking, and pretty, but if he looks even younger they can really pass themselves off as pathetic homeless orphans. In 𝐬𝐻𝐸's case, he is a pathetic, homeless, orphan. Sometimes having fun can make you forget things suck, and 𝐬𝐻𝐸 almost forgot he didn't have mom anymore. He almost forgot Sensei was just waiting for the right moment to steal 𝐬𝐻𝐸 back. He almost forgot Eraserhead could just give up on him at any point. He almost forgot Tomura could just kill him whenever he got bored. 𝐬𝐻𝐸's chest is starting to hurt. Spiraling always does this. Why can't my thoughts just remain happy? Do I have an urge to ruin my own life? Am I the problem? Am I why I can't be okay? Deku? I think you look ratty enough. You. Kaachan trails off and turns 𝐬𝐻𝐸 to get a good look at his face. He probably looks paler and is sweating more than usual. Deku, do you need to sit down? 𝐬𝐻𝐸 shakes his head rapidly. Kaachan is just concerned for no reason. Yeah. Everything is fine. Nothing else matters right now. This is a good day and nothing is going to ruin it. Nothing is going to ruin it. Nothing is. Tears boil at the corners of 𝐬𝐻𝐸's eyes. He reaches up to cover his face. Kaachan hands 𝐬𝐻𝐸 a handkerchief and turns around. It's not a physical comfort moment. He needs to calm down. Well, think of it like this, if you look like you've been crying, we might be able to convince people better. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 wipes the snot from his nose and nods. Maybe they should have gone home instead. At least Eraser would be comforting. But, what if he thinks 𝐬𝐻𝐸 ran away to get away from him? Or what if he's angry he skipped school? Kaachan. I don't want to go home. Eraser's gonna be mad. It's fine, Deku. I'll kill him if he even thinks of hurting you. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 shakes his head and walks over to someone who looks nice. Convincing pathetic homeless child mode activate. Kaachan is watching 𝐬𝐻𝐸 go along with their conning strategy. He's mostly watching him because he knows 𝐬𝐻𝐸 is upset. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 doesn't want to be upset in front of Kaachan, but that's just how the last few months have been going. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 tries his best not to freak out as he gets closer to someone. They look to be relatively well off, so trying to get them to pay for food won't hurt as bad. Plus, something about them feels familiar. Oh. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 wants to smack himself. That's a pro hero, a relatively well-known pro hero. How did he not realize before? This one has very obvious features. He's not in his hero costume, but that doesn't mean he should have missed the bright crimson wings. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 debates running away, but, oh no, he's been spotted. The youngest pro hero to make it into the top 10, Hawks, has spotted a child staring at him. And now he's waving and walking over. Hey, are you a fan? I'll give you an autograph. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 bites down on his lip to prevent himself from yelling or crying. Maybe if he stays silent, he won't bother him. Why is it so scary to be near this guy? It wasn't that big of a deal when he met All Might. Are you alright? You look a little lost. Hawks sounds pretty friendly and maybe even trustworthy. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 takes an unintentional step back. It's a reflex. He just wants to get away. Something about Hawk's eyes says he's hiding something. Like he's just waiting to strike when you're weak. Are your parents nearby? 𝐬𝐻𝐸 shakes his head and tries his best to look for Kaachan. Where did he go and why isn't he helping? Why is the room spinning? Why is it so cold? Ku! 𝐬𝐻𝐸, can you hear me? 𝐬𝐻𝐸's head hurts and the left side of his face is pressed against something cold. Eraserhead is kneeling beside him. He looks terrified. You're not angry? 𝐬𝐻𝐸 isn't sure if Eraserhead heard him because 𝐬𝐻𝐸 couldn't understand his own words once they'd left his mouth. Kaachan was standing behind Eraserhead with another blonde. Present Mike? Can you tell me what happened? Eraserhead's voice is softer now. I don't like Hawks, 𝐬𝐻𝐸 mumbles. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 tries to push himself up, but finds he'd pinned his left arm underneath him. He wiggles to get it free. He rolls away from the people crowding him and pushes himself up, so he's sitting on the floor, rather than laying on it. Hawks is still nearby, and he's talking to Kaachan. He's asking him a question. Probably about 𝐬𝐻𝐸. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 doesn't hear whatever the next question Eraserhead tries to ask him, he's only focusing on Hawks. There's something wrong with him. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 can't help but compare him to Sensei. Both appearing friendly and charming, but underneath that, they're hiding something horrible. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 makes a tiny knife out of the thread he's carrying around. What exactly is he trying to do here? Kill a pro hero? No, just get rid of him. Threaten him to leave. Just make him leave them alone. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 struggles to stand up. He's still dizzy and his head is pounding, but that doesn't matter. He just has to get rid of this guy and he'll be fine. This pro hero is too alike to Sensei and 𝐬𝐻𝐸 wouldn't doubt it if he's working with him. What if he is working for Sensei? Then Sensei will come find me, 𝐬𝐻𝐸 froze. No. Sensei would destroy everyone else here first. Then, he'd take 𝐬𝐻𝐸 back. He had to make sure 𝐬𝐻𝐸 remembered not to enjoy anything again. He didn't want to lose them yet. He didn't want to give them up. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 rushed forward and the knife reversed back to just a spool of thread in his hand. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 had too much momentum and ended up tackling Hawks to the ground. 3 people all yelled at once and 𝐬𝐻𝐸 started pounding his balled-up fists on the adult beneath him. Go away! Go away! Go away! 𝐬𝐻𝐸 didn't like to cry in front of others, but right now he was sobbing while screaming. Eraserhead wouldn't let him use his quirk and 𝐬𝐻𝐸 clearly wasn't hurting him with his fists. He didn't have anything else. Someone pulled 𝐬𝐻𝐸 back from attacking Hawks any further. Present Mike stepped in to help Hawks off of the ground. Eraserhead stepped in front of 𝐬𝐻𝐸 to block his vision from the pro he was trying to get rid of, whatever that meant to his illogical brain. What are you doing? You can't just attack people. I expect this behavior from 𝗵𝘃𝗀. Hey! 𝐬𝐻𝐸 freezes completely. Eraserhead is mad now. He's mad at him. He's mad and he's going to punish him, and 𝐬𝐻𝐸 deserves it. What was he even thinking? It doesn't matter what he was thinking. No matter what he tries to convince himself of, he attacked someone who hasn't done anything to 𝐬𝐻𝐸. He attacked someone whose job is to save people. He attacked someone employed by the government. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 deserved to be locked up in a jail cell. He should be taken to the police station, not because it's where he stays, but because he's a villain. All Might was right, 𝐬𝐻𝐸 is a villain. He was just waiting to show his true colors. Forget high school, 𝐬𝐻𝐸 will never see the light of day again. 𝐬𝐻𝐸, it's time to go. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 nodded numbly and let himself be lifted to his feet. He had no idea who helped him up or who was holding onto his shoulder, but he didn't care. They probably expected him to apologize before he was carted off to prison. Mr. Hawks, I'm sorry. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I scared you. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 shook his head. He didn't need the comfort from someone he wrongfully attacked. He just needed to receive his punishment. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 could always just handle it himself beforehand. Around so many people though. It is a long drive. He could ask to stop in the bathroom. Criminals don't deserve bathroom breaks. I need the bathroom, 𝐬𝐻𝐸 mumbles. If they don't hear him he won't go or ask again. There's one right there. Try not to take too long. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 nodded and marched into the bathroom. It didn't sound like anyone else was inside. Just to be sure, 𝐬𝐻𝐸 peeked under the doors of the stalls. No one but him. What is he even doing? He can't win. He'll always lose. Sensei will always win in the end. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 will never be happy, and it's stupid and delusional to assume he could. All he'll do is ruin everyone's lives and then get punished. For ruining everything he deserves this and more. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 took a shaky breath as he pulled off his jacket. He lay it on one of those baby changing stations. They always had those in bathrooms, just in case. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 spun a box cutter into being. He'd copied it exactly from the one Himiko gave him. The blade was rounded at the end. It would hurt worse than a sharp blade. Izuku rolled up the long sleeves of his shirt. He never liked soft fabrics so close to his skin. Not after sensei. This shirt had been made from calico, which is coarser than regular cotton and had no dye added so Izuku's skin wouldn't react negatively to it. Especially, since he's had injuries on his skin since his retrieval. Izuku always wore bandages on his arms. They were more comfortable than any shirt he could wear. Besides, more pressure on his skin meant it crawled less. It prevented the nausea and memories from springing back full force. It prevented him from freezing as well. Izuku unwrapped the bandages with care. He should hurry up, they'd start to worry. He didn't deserve for this to be over and done with. He had to suffer. This was the only way to right his mistakes. Just the left arm. If I take too long, I'll be disobeying Eraserhead. He's already mad. Cold set into Izuku's bones. The metaphorical mucus caught in his throat. His chest tightened. Izuku drew a quick line across his mid-forearm. Blood accumulated at the site of injury. It seeped down his arm and dripped onto the tile. This is what I deserve, Izuku thought to himself. Izuku sliced again, this time farther up his arm, close to his elbow. His blood followed soon after. Izuku watched the blood leak faster than the first cut. It hit the tile quicker. It doesn't hurt like it should. Izuku pressed the box cutter to a visible wrist vein. Why doesn't it hurt like it should? He drew the blade away as quick as he could. Izuku dropped the blade. The fresh air stung this cut. He shook as he sat there, transfixed by the flow. He had broken a dam this time. The tile beneath his arm changed from creamy gray to red within seconds. It could have been longer but time wasn't registering. He'd pass out from blood loss at this point. If Izuku loses too much blood he'll die. He doesn't deserve to escape punishment with death. And he didn't really want to die. Disgust rose in Izuku's throat. The stickiness of blood nauseated him. It reminded him of sensei. And it reminded him he was sitting on the floor of a bathroom, cutting open his skin. What was wrong with him? Eraserhead would be so angry with him. He already is. Why did he have to screw everything up worse? Izuku shook as he snatched paper towels out of the machine. Was he shaking from fear, disgust, or blood loss? Some mix of all three. Just toss in anger and you've got his hurricane of emotions at this moment. Izuku was all too familiar with cleaning up wounds, especially on a time crunch. He could just cover the blood on the floor with paper towels. That left more for the janitors here, though. It's fine, Eraserhead is handling the rest of his punishment and he'll just include this incident in his file. Once he was rid of the sticky feeling, Izuku wrapped his arm up tightly. It was the only way to stop the blood from pouring out again, and it kept him from drowning in his memories. He just needs to breathe. Izuku unraveled the weapon. He's hiding the truth. He's a lying, horrible villain, just like Sensei. Tomura was better than both of them, he never lied. He's just like his own monster. He's a monster. Just get out there and stop hiding from the pain. Whatever happens, you are what got you here. The only special thing about you is how you always manage to ruin things for everyone, Izuku snarled at his reflection. Even this dirty restroom was purer than him. Although, he's probably tainted it with how much blood he's spilled here. Why can't he just leave? Someone will be sent to drag him out and they'll see what he's done. The door opened and Izuku froze. No more shaking now. He can't even breathe. It's not even someone he knows, just a random customer. An older one, with minimal hair. Not even all that threatening. This your coat, kid? You really shouldn't occupy this thing with clothes. It's sort of inconveniencing to parents. Izuku swallowed the frog in his throat and nodded. He stepped a few feet closer so he could grab his jacket. As soon as his arms were inside, he bolted. Whatever happened after, happened. Anything to get away from that guy. Anything to just leave. This was supposed to be a good day, and yet, he ruined it completely. Kaachan must be angry at him for ruining this for him. He should be removed from everyone, he's a parasite. 𝐻𝐡𝐤 stopped running when he saw Eraserhead. He couldn't bring himself to move any closer. Not when he knew he'd messed up. Why did it hurt more now than when he'd messed up with Sensei? Oh, right. Eraserhead believed in him. He stood up for 𝐻𝐡𝐤 and defended him to a pro hero who knew Sensei personally. And he'd been wrong. 𝐻𝐡𝐤 had made Eraserhead be wrong. That's why it hurt worse. 𝐻𝐡𝐤 drowned in his own shame as he followed Eraserhead outside. No point in wasting more time. 𝐬𝐡𝐤 watched 𝐻𝐡𝐤 from his peripheral. He hadn't spoken once they'd gotten in the car, and didn't even acknowledge anyone once they arrived at the station. He didn't do anything other than stand near 𝐬𝐡𝐤 until he told 𝐻𝐡𝐤 to sit. Now, he won't even make a comfort plush. 𝐬𝐡𝐤 has always been familiar with the scent of blood. He knew 𝐻𝐡𝐤 was injured somehow. He had bolted out of the bathroom, so maybe from the guy who went in there. But that wouldn't explain why he refuses to comfort himself. He always plays with those when he's scared. 𝐻𝐡𝐤, could you pass me a pen? 𝐻𝐡𝐤 passes over a pen. Silently. He doesn't even look up. His posture is rigid. He's waiting for something to happen, but has completely accepted whatever that is. 𝐬𝐡𝐤 sighs as he fills out the paperwork before him. He needs to finish this so he can focus on his child. This is the exact reason he said it'd be a bad idea to take him in, because he has students he has to focus on. Yamada, your turn. I have something more important to focus on and you owe me for helping you grade papers. No problem, Aizawa. Just, go easy on him. 𝐬𝐡𝐤 nodded and turned his attention to 𝐻𝐡𝐤. He seemed to still respond to his surroundings. He had sat up straighter. Still sitting because 𝐬𝐡𝐤 had told him to. 𝐻𝐡𝐤, come with me. 𝐻𝐡𝐤 dutifully nodded and followed 𝐬𝐡𝐤 to an empty interrogation room. The two of them stood silently for a few moments. 𝐻𝐡𝐤 stared at the floor. 𝐻𝐡𝐤, can you look at me? 𝐻𝐡𝐤 tilted his head up. His eyes are as glassy as they were 4 months ago. A hint of fear tinted them, but it seemed to be as pushed down as he could. The green in his eyes dulled exponentially. 𝐬𝐡𝐤 could only imagine he expected to be punished for skipping school. Also, assuming Hawks pressed charges, getting arrested for that. Neither of those would be happening. Skipping 1 day of school, not that big of a deal. 𝐬𝐡𝐤 was honestly surprised it didn't happen sooner. Besides, Bakugo already informed them skipping school was his idea and 𝐻𝐡𝐤 went along with it. As for the attempt at hurting Hawks on his day off, he didn't care. He apologized for scaring 𝐻𝐡𝐤 and left it at that. Apparently, he thought it was kind of funny to be randomly attacked in public and planned on telling the story. Thankfully, he agreed to keep 𝐻𝐡𝐤's name out of it. 𝐬𝐡𝐤 wasn't planning on punishing 𝐻𝐡𝐤, he just wanted to know why he attacked Hawks. He knew it's because he scared 𝐻𝐡𝐤, anyone could tell that. He wanted to know what specifically about the hero scared him. 𝐻𝐡𝐤 normally adores heroes, especially ones that make a wide range of facial expressions, such as Hawks. 𝐻𝐡𝐤, can you tell me why you attacked Hawks? 𝐻𝐡𝐤's eyes regain a momentary shine, not a good kind, as his entire body stiffens. I don't like him. He's like Dash. 𝐻𝐡𝐤 cuts himself off. He's acting like he did in August. As if he's returned to that place with all for one. Realization dawns over 𝐬𝐡𝐤. I see. What specifically about Hawks reminded you of him? 𝐻𝐡𝐤 looked down and scratched at his left arm. He was never comfortable talking about all for one, even barely admitting to the existence of Sensei. His smile is fake. And there's darkness hidden inside him. 𝐬𝐡𝐤 raised an eyebrow as he repeated darkness back at 𝐻𝐡𝐤. Both the sad kind like you and me, but also the evil kind. The kind that hurts people. 𝐻𝐡𝐤 stared at the exit once he finished speaking. Nothing new there. He's probably waiting for someone to enter and to shut him up. As for what he just shared, 𝐲𝗍 didn't know how to respond. He understands what he's saying, but 𝐻𝐸's having the same intent as a villain? 𝐻𝐸 thinks 𝐻𝐸 kills people. While it's true, if a villain is dangerous enough, heroes are allowed to kill them. 𝐻𝐸 has never needed to do that. At least, none of his documented villain takedowns have ended their lives. Perhaps his background before he was a hero. 𝐲𝗍 couldn't just ignore this. Izuku's instincts are accurate, unfortunately, and if there was something wrong in that sense with a top hero, then 𝐲𝗍 couldn't trust Izuku to be on his own. Even in UA, hopefully he's still planning on attending. Izuku, are you more tired or hungry? Izuku says nothing. He might have zoned out. He's still staring at the door. 𝐲𝗍 walks over and opens the door. On the other side are All Might and Tsukachi. They're probably looking for him. What? All Might starts to squirm. Okay, 𝐲𝗍 sounded a bit aggressive, but he really doesn't have the time for this oaf. Izuku's health is his top priority. There's just something we'd like to discuss with Midoriya. Do you think we could borrow him for a moment? 𝐲𝗍 looked behind him. Izuku is staring past him, looking directly at All Might. And he does not look good. His whole face is contorting in terror. Great, so is something wrong with him too? No, wait. It's because his mortal enemy is All for One and talking to him can only mean. Yeah, it's going to be a no. You cannot borrow him. He's tired and needs to eat, and whatever you need him for isn't nearly as important as his health. 𝐲𝗍 makes sure to leave no room for argument as he closes the door. This isn't a discussion to be had. Izuku needs rest, and if he were properly moved into 𝐲𝗍's apartment, he'd take him there now. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened, and it can't happen with how unstable Izuku is right now. Plus there's still the injury he has, but hasn't figured anything out about yet. Izuku, where are dash? 𝐲𝗍 cuts off as Izuku shakes his head. I don't. I dash. Izuku shakes his head again and slumps down against the wall. He's scratching at his left arm again. 𝐲𝗍 sighs again. His left arm must be injured for him to be scratching it that much. Seeing as he's always wearing bandages, he probably just reopened a wound. Still, it needs to be cleaned properly, just in case. Also, some gauze might be necessary if whichever wound opened is deep. Izuku, your arm needs to be checked. I know it's bleeding. Izuku stopped scratching and slowly turned the left side of his body towards the wall. Something similar to a sob escaped his lips, but he made no other sound until 𝐲𝗍 looked away. 𝐲𝗍 would just get the emergency first aid supplies they had started to stock more of since Izuku's arrival. If nothing else, Izuku at least would take the initiative to care for his arm if the supplies were closer by. 𝐲𝗍 closed the door behind him and glared at All Might. He deflated and started to cough once again. 𝐲𝗍 kept an eye on him as he walked away from the room to gather the first aid supplies. If either All Might or Tsukachi try to approach Izuku right now, 𝐲𝗍 will personally give up his hero license just so he can attack the #1 hero. Thankfully, 𝐲𝗍 doesn't have to do that. Neither All Might nor Detective Tsukachi had moved from where they were standing. All Might was nervously watching 𝐲𝗍, but didn't seem like he wanted to draw his rage again. 𝐲𝗍 walked back into the room where Izuku sat. Izuku didn't look up even when 𝐲𝗍 set up the first aid supplies. Izuku, please, at least let me check your wound. I won't touch you if you don't want me to, I promise. 𝐲𝗍 sat silently as he waited. Izuku slipped only the one arm out of its sleeve. He stiffened a little as he pulled up his shirt sleeve. Due to the angle, Izuku scooted until he had completely turned around. Now, his right faced the wall, while his left was easily reachable. The bandages wrapped around Izuku's arm is wet. Izuku's shirt sleeve has also soaked up the moisture of his injured arm. That much blood means it's a deep cut or multiple deep cuts. 𝐲𝗍 carefully unwraps Izuku's arm. Izuku flinches as his wounds come into contact with the air. He bites down on his lip to prevent from making a noise. 𝐲𝗍 pours water onto a cloth. He carefully dabs at Izuku's arm. Izuku shakes, but isn't trying to rip his arm away, thankfully. After cleaning away most of the blood, Shota can see it's just one cut that's still bleeding. A cut on Izuku's wrist. Shota sucks in a breath that feels like someone just drove a truck into his lungs. Izuku did this to himself. Shota swallows down whatever feeling might be bubbling to the surface. He can handle his own emotions later. Izuku needs help right now. Shota cleans around the wound with an alcohol wipe. Izuku tries to take his arm away from the stinging sensation, but Shota is holding it in place. I know it hurts. I'm almost done. Shota lays an impregnated gauze pad over the cut. 2 other fresh cuts catch Shota's eyes. They've already healed, but they're red and the skin is raised. He lays impregnated gauze pads over them as well. Shota takes a clean bandage and begins to wrap Izuku's arm. Izuku has his eyes squeezed shut while Shota works. He's expecting it to hurt more, most likely. You're all done. I'm going to clean up and get you a different shirt. Go ahead and play with your plushies. I'll knock before I re-enter. Izuku nods and turns around so his left is facing the wall again. He takes Shota's words and does exactly as he says. Today's plushies are of Shota, Bakugo, Detective Tsukachi, and All Might. Shota gathers all of the first aid supplies and leaves the room. Once outside, he releases a breath that had gotten stuck in his lungs. Shota has been a teacher only for 2 years now. He's had his fair share of students and knows a bit about teenagers and how they work. He was a teenager once. He's handled his own mental health problems. Poorly, but still handled. Right now, in this moment, Shota has no idea what to do. Shota knows what Izuku is doing isn't healthy. He knows he shouldn't be hurting himself. He could tell him not to, but that would just result in Izuku trying harder to hide it and feeling worse about doing it. Of course, Shota has already set up a first appointment for Izuku. He'll meet with a psychologist and discuss all of this eventually, but it might take a minimum of 5 visits to even get to the point of discussing his self-harm. Shota needed Izuku to get help with this now. Shota needed to figure out how to help Izuku's with this right now, but Shota's never been good with this sort of thing. He could try to ask someone he knows, but who of any of them could actually help? Yamada? No. Kayama is off the table as well. He's not that close with the other UA staff. He's not sure All Might would have an appropriate response to this situation. None of the officers here could help either. And he's got no one to help with this. Under exactly 0 circumstances is he asking his students for help in a matter as serious as this. While they may need to know one day, they aren't getting involved in something as high stakes as a child self-harming. It doesn't matter if they how to handle it, he's not asking. Shota is at a loss. He can't possibly be out of options so soon. Shirakumo would know what to do. He was always better at comforting kids. He was even good at comforting Shota. Shota sighs. He'll just keep a closer eye on Izuku for now and keep as many of his triggers away as he can. And whatever happens, he won't get angry at Izuku. Yelling makes him nervous and he's good at reading emotions of the people nearest to him. Shota knocks on the door softly. Not too loud so he doesn't startle, just loud enough to get his attention. He enters and Izuku has his plushies fighting each other. I brought one of your scratchy shirts. I know you prefer them. Izuku looks up and drops his plushies. He holds out his hands for the shirt. Shota hands over the shirt and Izuku grabs his wrist. Izuku's face is filled with misery. Don't tell Kaachan. He'd get mad. I don't like when he's mad. Shota sighs. Of course that's what he's worried about. Shota grabs onto Izuku's hand. It's not my place to tell him. Besides, Shota is not involving a child in this discussion. Especially a child who may take matters into their own hands. Izuku sniffles and nods. He turns back towards his plushies. He'll change once Shota has left the room. Katsuki rolled his eyes again as Mom reprimanded him for skipping class. He didn't tell her about hopping on a train to Osaka. And he's definitely not telling her he made a plan to con people into giving him and Deku food. He'll probably be grounded, but it's whatever. 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬 will have to see all of those extras at school tomorrow, including that stupid principal with his stupid worrying about 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬's stupid mental health. He's fine and no one needs to worry about him. 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬 doesn't need friends outside of Deku. All those extras are going nowhere while 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬 is going to UA. Even Deku is going to UA with him. If 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬 actually needs friends, he'll just make some at UA. 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬, don't walk away while I'm talking. I'm tired and you're just repeating yourself at this point. 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬 stomped upstairs and slammed his door shut. He didn't feel like dealing with her anger. Honestly, he didn't feel like explaining himself to anyone. When Eraserhead has asked why he skipped school and jumped a train, he said, "Because I wanted to." Technically, it's true. Why he wanted to is an answer he's not even entirely sure of. He skipped school because it seemed like a good idea at the time. Because he didn't want to be around those extras any longer. Because he's never done it before. 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬 had no idea why, and he might never. He knew exactly why he wanted to jump a train. Deku had never been on a train before and that was the only way he'd get to go on one now. Even though that was entirely illegal and both of them should be arrested. Why is 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬 trying to do things for Deku? Maybe to make up for how he treated him in the past. Maybe because Deku is the only person actually on 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬's side. Maybe because that's what heroes do for people under their protection. 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬 should probably call Deku. He looked absolutely miserable during that car ride. He probably assumed he was gonna get arrested or something. Deku didn't like texting much, especially if he wasn't familiar with the other person. He said it's because he can't actually tell who is on the other side of the phone. Of course, 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬 and Himiko have pretty consistent texting styles, so they've gotten the green light on texting. Most of the time though, 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬 texts only to warn Deku he's calling soon. Which is what he's doing now. Deku also freaks out when his phone starts ringing and he isn't expecting a call. Read pops up on the screen. Great. As soon as 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬 hits dial, Deku picks up. "How are you not grounded?" 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬𝐬 scoffs. "I'm doing well, thanks," 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬𝐬 says sarcastically. "Sorry. I probably will be grounded officially, but the hag will have to cut off my hands to stop me from calling you." Deku is silent on the other end. "So, you?" "I can only assume nothing terrible happened if you're no longer catatonic." Deku mutters something that doesn't come through. After a beat of silence, Deku says it again, but only half of a word comes through. "You'll have to talk louder if you want me to hear it." "Sorry. I don't get it." 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬𝐬 waits for Deku to continue. "He's not even mad at me and I attacked someone. I should be arrested or have my phone taken or even just forced to sit in the corner. He's done none of that. The worst thing he's done is force me to take care of my arm. I don't understand why. Shouldn't I be punished?" "Hold on, his arm. When did Deku get injured?" Wait, 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬𝐬 has to address his confusion before he can worry about an apparent injury. "Deku, you're probably sitting in the corner right now. He's not mad at you, because you reacted to a bad situation in one of the only ways you know how to. But I attacked someone. That someone didn't care and you didn't hurt him. The worst thing you did was get dirt on his clothes. Besides, you didn't use your quirk on him." Those words felt rotten in 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬𝐬's mouth. "You're not even a real villain, they had no need to arrest you," 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 finished. "I was planning to." 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 responds with a I was going to stab him. He erased my quirk to stop me. I shouldn't have. I basically disobeyed a direct order. All Might was right, I am a villain." 𝐻𝐡𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 debated setting the #1 hero on fire then. Maybe he's getting ahead of himself, but even if it was just an implication rather than outright saying it, it's not fucking true. If All Might genuinely think Deku could be a fucking villain, then he has a horrible judge of character and he can take his opinions and shove them down his throat. "Deku, I have no idea what that himbo said to you, But you aren't a fucking villain and you made one fucking mistake. If anyone should be arrested, it should be me, because I'm the one that got us into this mess and I've done worse to you with my quirk. Deku tries to protest but Katsuki shuts it down quick. You were just a kid then. You're just a kid now. But I dash. You weren't thinking rationally because that potato fuck hurt you and you ain't healed from it. You're just a sad, dumb kid and you don't need prison time, you need a fucking pretzel. Deku grumbles something on the other line. There's something else I want to know. I don't want to talk about him. It's not about that. It's about your arm. How and when did you get injured today? Deku is silent. Katsuki can hear each time he takes a breath and it sounds like he's struggling. Yet another fucking problem. If it was any asshole there, Katsuki will track them down and beat them into a bloody pulp. I can't. I know. It's nothing. I plead bullshit, try again. Katsuki waited a little longer for Deku to think through whatever his answer is. Anything other than nothing would be acceptable. Katsuki should probably tell Deku that. My arm was bleeding from when I fell. Katsuki remembered watching Deku fall. He hit his head more than he had hit his arm. Did he fall again? When you fell? Yeah. I slipped in the bathroom. The tile cut my arm. Deku didn't sound too good. Katsuki got the feeling he was hiding something. Maybe he was pushed instead? Or was he just making up how he got hurt and it was something Katsuki hasn't guessed yet? Wait. No. He fucking didn't. Deku, where is the cut? My arm. The left one. Katsuki knows Deku is right-handed. It'd be far easier for him to hurt himself on his left side. Did he hurt himself in that fucking bathroom? Katsuki knew he shouldn't have left him alone. How close to the wrist? Katsuki can gauge how bad Deku is based on where he cut. He remembers what he said last time he questioned him. Deku does this to feel real because everything around him is insane. He does this because it feels good. Why Katsuki didn't assume this first is beyond him. Just below the wrist. Of fucking course. What the fuck is he supposed to do to fix this shit? Does his fucking dad know the truth of the matter or did he use that same dumb excuse on him? Deku, why'd you do it again? This could kill you. Katsuki didn't mean to shout. He doesn't mean to be angry. It's his go-to feeling and he has no idea how to help Deku, so being angry with himself and the whole world feels right. I know. That's why I stopped earlier. You mean to tell Katsuki that Deku would have kept going if he hadn't cut his fucking wrist? Enough cuts all around could cause him to bleed out. Fuck. Deku, you dash, Katsuki cuts off as Deku hangs up the phone. Shit. Did something happen over there? Or is it because Katsuki was scaring him? He needs to calm down first, but it's difficult to calm down when Deku is in danger with himself. Are you sure? Yes. You have my number on speed dial? Yes. You'll call if you need anything? I will. You've already informed the 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝐽 to pick you up once you've finished visiting her? I have. If at any point you feel like you'd rather not be with the 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝐽, I will come pick you up. I know. You know you can't participate in the New Year's kiss tradition. Dad, yes. I know. Now go. Please. I will be fine, and if I'm not, I know what to do. Your friends are waiting. 𝐬𝐸 looked over Izuku one last time. He was only going because Yamada practically begged him to come and Izuku said he should celebrate with his friends. Of course, Izuku wasn't interested in going with them, but he found his own solution to that problem. One more thing. Text me when you leave the hospital. I will. Now get going. Izuku attempts to shove him towards Yamada's car. I'm going. Stay safe. Izuku nods and turns away from 𝐬𝐸. 𝐬𝐸 releases the breath he's been holding. After the most recent disaster holiday time, 𝐬𝐸's a little nervous about allowing Izuku out of his sight. Especially when he's going to be around people. 𝐬𝐡𝐚𝐭 can count on 𝗵𝘃𝗀 for being one of exactly 3 people who 𝐓𝒂𝐢 doesn't hate being around. Considering his desire to visit 𝐲𝐴, that number may be moved up to 4. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 enters Yamada's car. Let's get this party started. Drive safely or I will allow Izuku to mess with you. Yamada laughs as he drives them away. Ray turns around as the door opens. Izuku is visiting her. He's alone and he's brought something wrapped up in cloth. Here, sit. Ray pats the seat beside her. Izuku takes the stool she offers him. It's not early by anyone's standards, but she didn't really expect a visit on New Year's Eve. Shouldn't he be with his father? How is everything at home? Izuku fiddles with the cloth-wrapped object. I move in with Dad soon. His place smells like him, but stronger. There aren't even any cats in his building. And he never actually uses his coffee maker at home. He just buys it or makes it at work. Ray smiles softly. Is his place nice? Izuku nodded. He didn't smile much, but this was about as close as he got to it. His face didn't look painfully strained and his body wasn't as tense as it could be. He already has a room set up for me. Most of my already existing things have been moved in. I get my own dresser and my bed is one of those stiff ones filled with springs. And the blanket he picked out for me is knitted and kind of scratchy. Ray didn't quite understand Izuku's love of rough or scratchy fabrics, but he is happy with his dad, so Ray's happy for him. Maybe this is her own way to heal from missing out on raising her youngest. If she could, she'd give him anything he wants. What's wrong? Ray? Ray wiped the tears away. She hadn't meant to cry. I just miss my children. Nothing you need to worry about. Izuku nods and presents the wrapped object to Ray. I made you something. It's a bit more permanent than anything I can make with my quirk. I know the plush I gave you last time undid itself because I was too far from it. I tried my hardest to make it as pretty as I could. It's probably not as soft as an expert could make it. If it's not good enough, I can make a new one. Ray unwraps the object. It's a doll of 𝐬𝐡𝐚. His head is unreasonably enlarged, but besides that he looks exactly as he should now that he's a teen. Ray sets the doll down in her lap. Thank you, Izuku. I love it. Izuku nods and kicks the stool's legs with his heel. He's trying to relax. Ray does similar motions to calm herself and Fuyumi. Picked up some of the same movements. Although, both of them tend to tap their feet against the ground rather than nearby objects. Has Natsuo visited yet? And how's Fuyumi doing? Ray loves to talk about her children. They're her favorite subject. Natsuo actually came by yesterday with Fuyumi. I got to hear all about his college plans. He's planning to study health and wellness. Fuyumi has almost finished college. She's almost a preschool teacher. She'll start the same time you start high school. Izuku looks a bit uneasy. What's the matter? Did I assume too much? You aren't required to go to high school. Izuku shakes his head. He's made one of his plushies. It's a young boy with spiky blonde hair. I just don't know if I'll be able to go to high school. Why? Are you worried you'll fail the entrance exam? I'm sure your dad will help you study. Izuku strains a smile. No, I did something bad and bad people don't get to go to high school. They don't deserve to. Ray offered her hand to Izuku. He set his hand in hers. I've done something bad too. I've told you about my eldest and my youngest. I hurt both of them and I still deserve to heal and enjoy my life. You deserve to have a life too, Izuku. I wish I could help you believe in yourself. Izuku didn't say anything. He just kept his hand in Ray's. He started to shiver though. Sorry, my ice quirk naturally makes me colder. No, it's fine. I'm only this sensitive to the cold because my birth father had a fire-breathing quirk. Besides, I like feeling cold. It helps me. Ray nods. Sometimes uncomfortable sensations can help ground you. Of course, it depends on the sensation and whether it reminds you of something traumatic. It seems the cold isn't one of those experiences for Izuku. I know Shoto will go to UA like his father. Maybe you'll see him there. Izuku lifted his head slowly and turned to look at Rei. He had an odd look in his eye. Your husband is a hero? Rei watched as Izuku trembled once those words left his mouth. He seemed to be recalling something. It's not something I normally talk about, but yes. He's the hero in 𝗍𝗲. Rei thought of her husband. When last she saw him, he'd been angry. It seemed he was always angry. Angry at Rei for interfering with Shoto's training. Angry at Shoto for not trying hard enough. Angry at 𝗬𝗧 for not listening. And always angry at himself for being unable to surpass All Might. It was a bit sad. Why? Why are the top heroes? I don't get it. Izuku muttered to himself. Rei only caught a few of his words. It'd be hard to accept for any child growing up idolizing heroes. I don't understand. Heroes are supposed to protect people, so why? Rei moves Izuku's hand to his plushie. He jolts. Sorry. His ambition got in the way of his principles. Some people are just like that, too focused on one thing so they miss everything around them. And they miss themselves hurting the people they should care about. It wasn't anything complicated like with you or me. He just fell short of a goal and did whatever it took to see it through. Rei apologized to Izuku again. Somehow their conversations always end up in sad territory. Once things are smoother for both of them, maybe they can stay focused on something happier in their lives. I think I should go now. Thank you for having me and Happy New Year. Izuku bows once and then bolts out of the room. He's lost in thought based on the look on his face. He's probably processing everything Rei said. Perhaps she said too much. Katsuki opened the car door. Deku crawled over his lap into the seat beside him. He is either considering throwing up or throwing hands, and either one needs to wait until they aren't in a dangerous vehicle. What's the matter with you? Run into another doctor and, due to social convention, got trapped in a conversation? Deku shakes his head. He makes one of his comfort plushies. It looks like an ice fairy. This is Rei. She's who I visit at the hospital. Katsuki nodded. He knows that part. Why is he making a plush of her? Something bad, she said. She was hurt by her husband and so were their children. I don't know what most of them look like. But, this is the youngest. Another plush, this one like a peppermint. Seriously, half red and half white hair. How the hell do you end up with such a perfect split? Her husband is. Deku trails off and makes another plush. The bright red and orange flames of the hero's body hurts Katsuki's eyes. Anyone who doesn't live under a rock would recognize that ugly thing as in 𝗍𝗲, the number 2 hero for a while now. Over 2 decades. So 𝗍𝗲 treats his family as shitty as he treats villains? Deku nods glumly. He's not feeling guilty about something stressful for once, so even if the news sucks, it's a win in Katsuki's book. Kaachan, he did all of that bad stuff because he was stubborn. He fell short of his goal and did whatever it took to achieve it. You dash. Deku clamped his teeth shut as they hit a pothole. Katsuki motioned for Deku to continue. You're ambitious in a similar way. I don't want you to end up missing the way you hurt others. Please don't end up like him. Katsuki stared completely dumbfounded. What the fuck? First off, why the fuck would he even consider hurting someone who isn't a villain to achieve a goal? What kind of fucking goal is this? Second off, what did Deku mean by ambitious in a similar way? You either have ambition or you don't. Third, did Deku really think he'd end up like that prick? He'd rather eat his own hands than beat his spouse or kids. Fine, Katsuki knew the answer to his own question. He hurt Deku when they were younger and he was diagnosed quirkless. He's already done it once so it could happen again. He has a short temper too and that'd be enough for someone to get hurt. Kaachan? Are you mad? Katsuki cleared his brain. Generally, yeah. I'm not mad at you, you're looking out for me. Although, your phrasing is really weird. I won't end up like that bastard. How's that? Deku just nods and turns back to his collection of plushies. He's remaking the Trauma family into the top 10 pro heroes, save for All Might. Still can't bring himself to look at the man. Fucking potato bitch ruining things for Deku. Once they arrive at Katsuki's home, they leave the car. Inside, the place is decorated and the food is already laid out. Katsuki's mom invites, more like orders, the boys to sit. Katsuki sits near Deku, but with enough space between them that he can comfortably move his arms. He started to pick up on the nerd's new preferences. Especially since they're almost always around one another. Deku slips his phone in his pocket after sending a text. His dad must be worried about letting him go a few hours without a trusted adult. Next New Year's celebration, those two should just sleep in. Katsuki isn't all that interested in New Year's. He'd rather have spicy food than what they're actually eating. Sure, it's traditional and celebratory, but he wants something with a kick. Also, celebrating holidays has just felt wrong the last few years. To be fair, the last few years Deku was missing and Auntie had died in that time, so of course holidays felt weird. It still felt weird to be celebrating anything, maybe out of habit or just because Deku looks like he'd rather be lying in the snow. Katsuki might even join him, but only if he's got a thick enough coat. His sweat freezes too easily for him to go out without one. Wishing for your health and happiness in the new year. Deku says. Mine? Yeah, why Kaachan? Wish for your own health and happiness. But that seems selfish. Katsuki turns his whole body to look at Deku better. You deserve a little selfishness. And if multiple people wish for your health and happiness, maybe it'll come true. Deku nods silently and whispers for his own health and happiness in the coming year. Katsuki quietly wishes for Deku to have more friends than just him and also for him to get a haircut in the new year. Hungry? Katsuki questions Deku. A little, thanks. Katsuki hands Deku a bowl of Toshikoshi soba. Mom asks Katsuki if he wants his bowl yet. He declines for now. As far as Katsuki is concerned, he doesn't need longevity noodles. He's not in danger of dying young, not at risk of being hurt severely. Deku is, but Katsuki isn't. Deku, what's on your mind? Why would you think dash? Deku. You'd be rattling off a million thoughts at once. Is the Endeavor thing still bothering you? Katsuki watches Deku chew quietly. He shakes his head. He swallows his noodles before speaking again. It's about something Dad said before he left. Do you know why? Why people kiss on New Year's? It seems to be pretty common in fiction and people do it often in real life, enough for him to bring it up. I get if you don't want to answer, but I thought maybe you would know because you aren't as alienated from society as I am. At least Deku is still himself. Katsuki didn't expect him to rattle off about kissing though. What did his dad even say? Kissing at midnight is more of a Western thing. It's supposed to bring luck and love. Also, some people like to kiss. Deku doesn't say anything. He's pulling on his bottom lip, which means he's thinking. It's a habit he picked up from his mother. It's refreshing to know he still has something from his younger days. Before he disappeared. Kaachan. Why do people like to kiss? Isn't it a little gross? Katsuki sighs. Of course, this is the logical next question. Can't you ask Mom or Dad? They actually kiss, so they obviously know more about this than me. Deku nervously looks over to Katsuki's parents. They're talking, fine, they're flirting, and letting the boys chat alone. I don't think I can. Besides, you're closer to my age, so it's less awkward. Deku has a point. Still, Katsuki has no knowledge of kissing or anyone who does kiss. It can be a little gross, especially if it's a wet kiss. Although, he's heard saliva has a painkiller in it, so that could be why. Deku, I literally don't fucking know. It could be societal expectation or something biological, but I genuinely have no idea. You can probably look it up on your phone. Deku nods and fiddles with his jacket. He still hasn't taken it off. He hasn't hurt himself since Christmas, right? Deku, you know you can take off your jacket, right? You don't have to wear it inside. It's cold. Besides, it's hard to roll up the sleeves, so you guys don't have to worry, I might. Deku trails off, but Katsuki knows the end of that would be hurt myself. While he's glad Deku is watching himself, he doesn't like that he has to hold himself back by wearing inconveniencing clothes. Even if he likes his jacket, it shouldn't be something he associates with not hurting himself. Name something you want in the new year and you can have it. Deku is silent for a solid 5 minutes. Either he's weighing what option would be most realistic or deciding which one thing he wants. You can make a list. I'll get you anything you want, need, or just have to see once. I'll get you a pen and paper. Deku nods and holds out his hands for the paper. He creates his own pen out of thread. What order should I? How many can I list? Am I allowed to write down multiple items related to the same thing, or should I shove them all into one thing? Are abstract concepts allowed? What if I just want to visit an area or print a photo of somewhere? Are people-specific requests allowed? When will you have the time to complete all of this? Deku takes a deep breath because he can't continue speaking without oxygen. Katsuki uses this time to process all of Deku's questions. Just write down what you want and I'll sort through what is and isn't reasonable. And don't write 3 paragraphs, just do a bullet list. Also, where the fuck do you keep enough oxygen to say all of that? Deku mumbles something and jots down a few lines of text. Katsuki watches Deku write. As much as he hated to admit it before, he likes when Deku scribbles away at his notebooks. When he gets completely lost in thought while writing down every single pro hero known to Japan. Even when he'd write down Katsuki's quirk and moves, he liked it. It's nice to know Deku hasn't lost this habit either. I might add more, but this is what I've got so far. If it's too much I won't add more. Shut up, Deku. Just let me see the damn page. Katsuki takes the page. The first thing listed is about his dad, so he puts a pin in that. The second one is about Katsuki. It's a very short want. One Kaachan smile, it says. Katsuki rolls his eyes. Of course he wants something this dumb. Alright, now Katsuki needs to remember how to smile properly. He's smiled before, recently even. What kind of smile does Deku even want? Deku, I smile. Why is that one of your desires? Deku clicks the tips of his fingers together while looking down at his hands. It's because you don't smile much. I miss your smile. You used to smile every day. I can't help but feel I'm the reason you don't smile anymore. Katsuki shook his head. Deku is always going to be like this, regardless of the circumstance. It's not that. I don't smile much because everything pisses me off more than it did when I was little. Everything except for you. Katsuki knew Deku would immediately think he was a part of the problem if he didn't add that ending part. And Deku wasn't a part of the problem. It's not his fault he got kidnapped by a freak. It's not his fault the entire world is crushing down on top of both of them. It's not his fault Katsuki has nightmares of Deku dying. Should smiling be removed from the list? Katsuki pulled a tight grin. No, it's fine. I'll give you a smile right now to get a head start. Deku shook his head at Katsuki's failed attempt at a grin. It probably looked horrific. Well, that's one checked off of his list. Now, on to another kind of smile. Katsuki attempts one of his, "you're gonna die" villain smiles. Deku looks as uncomfortable as he normally is in public places. That's out. The next attempt is a friendly smile. Katsuki doesn't do these ever. It's probably a little strained, but all of his smiles have been strained. You just look like you're holding back a string of violent curse words. While it's on brand for you, I don't like the smile very much. Katsuki curses to himself. Katsuki, stop swearing so much, it's a holiday, his mother chides. Katsuki doesn't respond to her. The only thing that's left is his victory smile, but he hasn't won anything. He can't just pull it out on a whim. Oh. Katsuki wants to smack himself. Why didn't he think of that first? Deku is just doing an indirect service to Katsuki, by wanting him to be happy. If he outright stated that it wouldn't look like a want for his happiness, but another want for someone else's happiness. Deku, I will return to this in the new year. You know what, fuck that. I am promising you right now, you will get a smile per month for the entire next year. Mark my goddamn words. Katsuki. Katsuki ignored his mother in favor of Deku's smile. It was small and barely noticeable to anyone. But it filled Katsuki with enough pride to see this damn mission through. That was enough for him and for Deku. Deku. Did you seriously list passing UAS entrance exam as a want on the list? Fine, you're getting in, if I have to fight the teachers without my quirk to do it. Also, you need to eat more. Deku bobs his head back and forth, both as a nod and as a stimulant. I don't even know how to begin to start this list. Did I pick something bad? Deku, there are strawberries in my fridge, just take out the pack and eat some. Right. Thank you Kaachan. No problem, nerd. Izuku waited on the sidewalk in front of the Bakugo household. Eraserhead would be arriving via someone else's car to pick him up and then they'd go out. Eraserhead promised a shopping day as the first thing in the new year. Izuku didn't normally like going in public, especially somewhere as crowded as a store, but he needed to rebuild his hero collection. There's been new heroes since he last saw the outside world and he'd like their merchandise too. Back when he lived with Sensei, Tomura, and Kurogiri, New Year's was only ever heard from behind closed doors or seen from a window. Mostly a mix of the two for each year. This year was the first time since all of that he'd gotten to celebrate. He wished he could have celebrated with Mom, but celebrating with Kaachan is just as good. A nice car pulls up in the driveway. Izuku can see Eraserhead and he's talking to whoever the driver is. And whoever it is, he's mad at him. Probably Present Mike then. He's almost always mad at Present Mike. Eraserhead opens the door and steps out. Izuku can see behind him for a brief moment. The driver is All Might? Or should he be calling him Yagi, seeing as it's the skeleton form? Should he even refer to him at all? Izuku, do you have everything? Izuku didn't come with much and he's only leaving with one extra thing, a carton of strawberries. So, yes, he has everything. Izuku nods and Eraserhead opens the door to the car. Izuku looks between the open door, Eraserhead, and All Might repeatedly. Eraserhead notices and gives Izuku a look like, I'll explain on the way. Izuku carefully climbs into the car and slides over to the other side. Car protocol says Izuku must always be in Eraserhead's line of sight, so he isn't allowed to sit directly behind him. Of course, Izuku doesn't want to be this close to All Might because of Sensei's hatred of him, but also because he's pretty sure All Might still views him negatively. He's not wrong, but it still stings. Yagi, do you mind explaining why the three of us are in your car, so Izuku doesn't jump to conclusions or out of a moving vehicle? Yagi coughs as a startled response. A bit of blood can be smelled. Right, from when he and Sensei fought. He ruined his stomach and some other organs. How does he still live? He can't eat. Yagi clears his throat before speaking. Right, I offered to drive you and Aizawa because I wanted to help him. Eraserhead glares at him. Yagi continues as the glare continues, but also because I wanted to talk to you. I've been informed you intend to enter the hero course at UA, and if that's true, you'll be seeing me more often as I will be teaching there. The number one hero is going to be teaching at UA? Whose idea was this? Oh, this must be how he intends to find someone to hold his quirk. Sensei is going to make all of those students' lives hell. So you wanted to tell me you're teaching? Thanks for the heads up, I guess. Izuku could hear Eraserhead smirk at Izuku's blunt response. It sounded a little mean, but Izuku wasn't in the mood for 3 years of extra torment just because some soon-to-be retired guy needed to pass on his torch to some starry-eyed kid with dreams too big for their body. It's just that, as your future teacher, I believe we need to build a better bond. At the very least, we need to have more trust between us. It would make teaching lessons easier, and I believe you wouldn't be as uncomfortable in class if there were more people you knew with you. Izuku does have to admit the logic is sound, but he'll have Kaachan. He doesn't need anyone else when he's not in Eraserhead's class. Wait, what if Kaachan isn't in the same class as him? He'll just never leave his side. You'd have to remove him with salt like a leech or something. No, Izuku can't do that. Besides, if he doesn't get used to talking to Yagi, then how is he supposed to ask for help in class? Also, he's the only one that could truly keep him safe from Sensei if it came down to it. He might as well get more used to him. Trust isn't something he'll be able to extend for a while, but at least tolerance and respect of ability. Okay, fine. How did you intend to build trust? Or did you think it'd just happen like magic? Yagi coughs again. Eraserhead gives Izuku a look. It's hard to discern its meaning, but beneath the surface, pleasing is the main feeling. Oh, good, Izuku is doing something right. You're very blunt, kid. I was thinking a game like 20 questions. Have you ever played that with your friends? Izuku swallowed back the snappy response, dangerously trying to escape. Do not make this man die from blood loss, he's already got a foot in the grave. You do not want your snark to be what ends your once favorite hero. No matter how funny that would be, and how cool it'd be to rub it in Tamura's face that he wasn't the one to end the greatest hero ever. I have never played 20 questions. How does it work? Also, you need to focus on the road. If Dad gets hurt because you're distracted, I'll become a real villain and murder you myself. Kid, please. Eraserhead passes Izuku a note. It's his handwriting, but worse because they are moving. You can say no. You aren't required to indulge him because he's your future teacher or the current number one. Izuku pulls out his phone and texts his response to Eraserhead. It makes complete sense to do this. Plus, there are some things I want to know that no amount of villain intel will give you. Eraserhead shakes his head. He's hiding a smile. Izuku smiles too. He made Eraserhead happy. Now if he could just keep doing this, then maybe things won't be so awful for him. They arrive at where they're going to be spending the day. Most places are actually closed for the first few days of the new year, but this place is always opened. Izuku and Eraserhead suspect that it's because either the people running it don't believe in holidays or because it's being run by former criminals and they can't afford to close up shop for even one day. It's pretty obvious none of the three of them have actually eaten anything for breakfast. Yes, Izuku has a carton of strawberries. No, he hasn't eaten any of them. Besides, if he can help it, he's not taking anyone else's food. So no breakfast at Kaachan's and no Yagi paying for food. Izuku half-legally belongs to Eraserhead's litter, so he can't say any food bought by him isn't his, but he doesn't actually like eating much. Several things have an unpleasant texture and other things, like spicy food, just don't agree with his taste buds. So we'll play while you eat, right? Izuku, I know you haven't eaten anything. You need to eat something. Izuku mumbles some of the curses Kaachan uses when he's mad. Yagi laughs at Izuku and then that turns into a coughing fit because Eraserhead is glaring at him. Fine, I'll eat. I don't want Yagi paying though. I already felt bad about having to eat out. I don't need someone else paying for my food. I'll be paying for your food, so you'll still be using someone else's money. Okay, but you're my dad. Yagi is just a guest who doesn't even know my favorite color. It's very different. Yagi looks between both of them, wondering what exactly is going on with Izuku. When last he saw Izuku, he wouldn't talk more than he needed to. Now he seemed to fill the silence with much ruder words and didn't seem to care if it hurt. Also, he argued like the kid on the debate team with anger management issues. So where would you two like to sit? 𝐻𝐻𝐬 tried to break the awkwardness. Both Eraserhead and Izuku said at the same time, away from people. 𝐻𝐻𝐬 sighed as he realized he was dealing with two of the same kind of people. They sat at a table with a fair amount of empty space in between it and any people there as well. Izuku sat beside Eraserhead and 𝐻𝐻𝐬 sat across from him. Eraserhead insisted Izuku order something to eat before he participated in the game. I don't like the texture of anything here. Izuku pouted as he glared at the menu. Normally, he would have liked yogurt. But recently he had yogurt and it made him so nauseous he threw up. It reminded him of something he'd rather forget. Sensei always sticking around to the end. Most everything else had a questionable texture. The only things he could stand were things like rock candy, with super rough textures and taking a long time to chew through, and strawberries, because they remind him of childhood. The texture, you say? What sort of texture do you like, my boy? I like to chew on rocks, Izuku deadpants. 𝐻𝐻𝐬 coughs out a laugh and points to something on his menu. So, what about steamed vegetables? They aren't as hard as rocks, but they definitely won't be slimy. Izuku stares as the vegetables, judging them each by the expected taste and texture. Vegetables get soft when you cook them, especially when steamed. They aren't gooey, slimy, or sticky. They'll likely have light seasoning. And they have enough iron to help him stay upright for a decent amount of time per day. Those are good, I guess. Thank you. Izuku bows his head slightly. 𝐻𝐻𝐬 gives him a thumbs up. Eraserhead looks relieved and also annoyed. Probably because it's always a battle to find something this child is willing to eat even a bite of. With 𝐻𝐻𝐬 it wasn't a battle, it was an accepted suggestion. It's only because Izuku isn't comfortable arguing with 𝐻𝐻𝐬 and because it's an acceptable option. I picked something. Does that mean we can start? Are you going to order something to drink? Can I order bleach or sewage water? No. Then my answer is no. Fine. Izuku turns his attention to 𝐻𝐻𝐬. He looks a bit worried. Probably because he isn't used to Izuku actually arguing with someone. Or maybe he isn't used to Eraserhead arguing with someone who isn't a pro, so he's only seen him snap at people and actually hit them. So, the game, how does it work? Are you deciding who goes first? Do we have to roll dice or something? Is there a point system for whoever gives the best answers? Am I allowed to write down your answers? Will you be writing mine down? Are there any topics off limits with you? What are we allowed to ask? What if a question makes us uncomfortable, are we required to answer it? Will we each be asking 20 questions, or will it be 10 each to equal 20? Slow down, young man. I can't keep up with this. You're clearly not at a loss for words. Izuku clamps his teeth shut. He wasn't supposed to talk yet, whoops. Will there be a penalty system for the game? Has the game already started? 𝐻𝐻𝐬 takes a deep breath. Does he still have 2 lungs? Izuku couldn't remember which organ Sensei said he lost. Young Midoriya, please allow me to explain the game. Izuku nods. I thought perhaps you would like to ask first. If not, I will go first. We take turns asking questions. If you want to write down my answers, I won't stop you. I will not writing down yours. Izuku slips out a notebook he carries with him and makes an All Might pen. He saw one online, sue him. As for off limits, I would say anything outside of your comfort zone. If a question probes too far, just say so and it can be swapped out with something more appropriate. I don't have any specific boundaries with questions for now, but I'll let you know if it's something I shouldn't answer or just don't want to. Izuku nods again. Simple rules for a simple game. Still, he never did answer about how many questions they were supposed to ask. 𝐻𝐻𝐬, you forgot a question, Eraserhead says, reading Izuku's mind. You could understand him. So could you. It may be the name of the game, but he requires clarity. Right, we will each ask 20 questions or we can stop at any point you no longer wish to participate. Was that all of them? Izuku nods and starts to write down some of the questions he wants to ask. Most things people want to know about All Might have already been asked in interviews. Izuku could probably quote most of his answers from them. Even being stuck with Sensei and Tomura meant he could still see them. Since Sensei is trying to build up Tomura's hatred of All Might, his interviews are the perfect thing for him to watch. Izuku memorized every word because he knew he wouldn't get a chance to watch them again. He replayed them in his mind to help him calm down so he didn't cause a scene. It wasn't the most effective plan, but memorizing them is really helpful in narrowing down what sort of things to ask now. So, I'm going first. If you'd like. You already have some questions picked out. There's one that's been bugging me since I found out about your condition. Since Sensei told him what he did to All Might, what he did to Yagi. My condition? I see. Izuku got his pen ready for the answer Yagi would give him. How do you eat without a stomach? Both Eraserhead and Yagi had tensed beforehand. Once the question left Izuku's mouth they both relaxed and Yagi even let out a sigh of relief. My boy, you had me scared for a second. Izuku mumbles a sorry. It's alright. My esophagus is directly connected to my intestines now from surgery. I have to chew my food more and avoid anything that may cause gas buildup, but otherwise I eat like anyone else. Izuku wrote down Yagi's response quickly. Surgery is real magic. So he probably can't have alcohol or caffeine either. That kind of sucks. Oh, it's Yagi's turn to ask. Izuku braced himself for the first question. Can I know what your favorite food is? It's now Izuku's turn to breathe a sigh of relief. This is much too stressful. Are all of the questions going to be this normal? It used to be Katsudon, but I can't handle the texture of meat anymore. So, I guess coffee, if it counts. Yagi nods. Izuku loved Katsudon before everything went wrong. He still loves it because Mom would always make it when he was feeling down. It even shared a part of its name with his best friend. Now, though, eating any kind of meat, even imitation meat, makes him nauseous and he ends up vomiting. He can't even be near the smell of pork because of this. It's so stupid he can't just enjoy everything he used to. Eraserhead lowers his voice and leans close to Izuku. What's bothering you right now? Izuku shakes his head. He can tell him later. It's not that big of a deal, just a minor frustration. Can we talk about this later? Fine. Just remember to breathe. Yeah, I know. Izuku waves Eraserhead off and returns his attention to Yagi. It's his turn to ask a question now. What should he ask? How about fourth on Izuku's list of questions to ask All Might? So, where's your favorite place to travel to in Japan? Yagi seemed like he wanted to ask about Izuku and Eraserhead's exchange, but left it alone for now. He wasn't the kind of person to pry unless he felt it would do less harm than good. Yakushima, I'm a huge fan of the yakusugi trees there. Izuku writes down just the word yakusugi. Why does he like those trees specifically? Those are really big cedars. He probably just likes things as old as him. Speaking of, how old is he? Are you ready for the next question, my boy? Izuku nods as he sets down his pen. Yagi appears stiffer, but that's easily explained by the look Eraserhead is giving him. Yagi clears his throat nervously. What's your favorite flower? Izuku tugs on Eraserhead's sleeve. Dad, can you stop trying to scare him? He hasn't done anything yet, Izuku mutters. I'm not trying to scare him. He's a pro hero. If just me looking at him is enough to scare him, then he's unfit for his job. Izuku does his best impression of Eraserhead's trademark sigh of pure unfiltered exhaustion. He looks as annoyed as possible too. Izuku. That's just an excuse and you know it. You're mad because you think he's treating me like a son even though we aren't that close. Eraserhead sighs and then nods. Fine, I was just worried about you. I won't glare at him again until he steps out of line. Thank you. I'm returning to my game now. Izuku turns away from Eraserhead. 𝐻𝐻𝐬 gives him an appreciative look. He's about to thank him verbally. You asked for my favorite flower? It's sunflower. Izuku has a confession to make about sunflowers. He likes them because his mother loved them. She loved them because her favorite hero mentioned in an interview that she liked them. As an added bonus, All Might said in an interview once he's a fan of sunflowers. Coincidence on the All Might part though. Mom's favorite hero was a woman, although Izuku couldn't remember her name or if she ever mentioned the name. It's been so long since then. That hero is long past too, so it's not like he could just search them up as easily. You like sunflowers too? 𝐻𝐻𝐬 smiles while questioning. Izuku nods. Most of the questions continue like this. Nothing out of the ordinary. They get their food around question 11. Eraserhead orders for Izuku because he hates talking to strangers. 𝐻𝐻𝐬 orders for himself. Things are very calm and totally normal, and that isn't changing. Their meal takes much longer than you would expect because Izuku eats slowly because he doesn't really like to eat, and 𝐻𝐻𝐬 eats slowly because he has to thoroughly chew his food to be able to eat it safely. Eraserhead eats at a normal pace for a functioning human being and tries not to stare at Izuku just so he'll eat faster. They finish their game when they finish their meal. Izuku is honestly a little sad to end it. While he wouldn't necessarily trust 𝐻𝐻𝐬 with some of his secrets, he'd definitely pick him first as an alternative caregiver. He'd even go as far as to say he's a friend. Not a close friend, but a friend you could go to just to calm down from a breakdown. 𝐻𝐻𝐬 follows them as they browse through the hero merchandise, the original reason they came out today. It's always the most popular heroes first, so the top 10 are the easiest to find. Even if 𝗵𝗃𝗲 has basically no merch sales, his is always right next to All Might. Izuku makes an ugly face when he sees it. He has to be physically removed from the area so he'll stop glaring at it. Neither 𝐻𝐻𝐬 nor Eraserhead know what he has against him because he only mentioned this to Kaachan. And no offense, these two would blow things way out of proportion. Or they might not believe him. He probably wasn't even supposed to mention it to anyone. Young Izuku, look, it's a Mount Lady figure. Izuku scrunched his face. Mount Lady? He's never heard of her. She must have debuted when he was still. Sorry, when did she debut? I don't recognize her. I believe it was last April. She has a gigantification quirk. Izuku nods and picks up the Mount Lady figurine. It's obvious from her pose and costume style she's setting herself up to be a fan service hero. Izuku isn't the biggest fan of those heroes, especially since some of the things they say or do make him uncomfortable. Even just what the fans of these heroes say are enough to push him away from them. Still, she's a valuable asset to his hero merch collection. The rest of their trip is just as smooth. 𝐻𝐻𝐬 points out a few of the heroes Izuku has most definitely missed the debut of. Izuku analyzes the figure to find out what kind of hero they are. Eraserhead carries most of the toys, because he wants to. He also pays for all of them. And once everything is done, they head home.